Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 385th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call, we have Andy Patterson and Gabe Lewis, going live on YouTube, 8 o'clock every Sunday. See the boys in the chat already, the Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes over on patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. Anybody listening during the week on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, welcome to you lot as well. Amazon are doing podcasts as well, apparently. Have to try and get it on here, why don't we? Leave a 5-star review, nothing less than 5 stars will be acceptable throughout the whole month of August. How you keeping, Andy? Everything okay in your neck of the woods?
Doing no bad, mate. Haven't seen a great deal this week, to be honest with you. Total casual central for me. I had a wee bit of the Belarus card on in the background on Monday, I think it was. I think I had a few cards on this week. Never seen much of the fight camps stuff. Switched on it briefly in the hope that some pyro maybe set Eddie's house on fire. This week's just been a complete wash in terms of interest for fights for me and stuff. So, no wonder Frank Warren's trying to break bread with Eddie at these points. Maybe try and get some meaningful fights put together. Paulie getting the bullet for Showtime. Linares slaying me, Baby Garcia on Twitter and YouTube, etc. You've had the wee dig at Teofimo Lopez over the Lomachenko situation. So even though the action hasn't kept my interest, some of the news has kept me kind of up to date and stuff. I suppose we'll go into Fowler in a wee bit. That's the wee bit of action I did catch in that I recently found out that the guy he actually beat up on actually failed a brain scan or something like that. I need to go and double check that. But aye, so all in all, it's been a shit week for action as far as I'm concerned for boxing.
Yeah, not too bad. I don't think you've seen a lot either, Gabe. I think you've logged in as the Boxing Asylum, the same as me, haven't you? These comments coming up, and I'm thinking, I don't remember writing that, so it could be coming from me or you, Gabe.
Yeah, I think I am still. I fucking forgot to sign out the last time that I was in.
Everything okay other than that, yeah?
Yeah, just had to clean up my deer heads on the wall earlier, make sure they were nice and clean for if we have guests out in the middle of the sticks. Yeah, not much going on out this way. It's hot as fuck.
Yeah, it's pretty warm here as well at the moment. Let's get on to fight camp straight away. I'm not sure how much.
Stevie, what is it there?
I'm not sure. I'd say it's probably touching about 20, to be honest.
It's about 23 here actually, but that's warm for us.
What is that in Fahrenheit?
Oh, I don't know. About 6,000.
I hear 20 and I'm thinking Fahrenheit, and 20 Fahrenheit here is cold as shit. But
it's about 75, I think.
Oh, I fucking hate you bastards! It's like 105 here.
My God,
it's fucking terrible.
That's like what's that? 40 odds.
I'm not sure. I don't do.
It must be. I'll leave you to it.
That's crazy though. I remember, Gabe, whenever I went on my honeymoon to Cyprus and Egypt, it was touching 38 some of the days, and it was that hot the locals wouldn't work in the day. The guys doing the scaffolding in the building and that, and they had to come out at night, and that was absolutely roast your bollocks off weather. So I feel for you, whatever the hell. If it's over 40 over there, Gabe, then good luck to you.
The hottest I've ever been in was Xi'an in China, 44 degrees, man. It was insane.
Too much for me. Gabe's enjoying himself anyway. We'll come to the PBC shortly. I don't know if you saw it or not. I did. Enjoyed it, actually. Let's start with fight camp. There's fireworks outside of the ring. Not too many fireworks in it. Although I have a bit of humble pie to eat in the main event. I didn't give Natasha Jonas any chance whatsoever of upsetting the Terry Harper hype train. I thought she boxed really well, Jonas. I thought she won the fight. She was a justifiable winner. She outmaneuvered Harper. Harper looked a little bit one-dimensional coming forward, trying to land the big shot. The 2-minute rounds didn't help either. She was starting to get desperate and frustrated as the fight went on. There was a cut to Jonas, but she was catching her with those shots on the inside, pulling her towards the ropes, landing the better shots for me. And I thought she was a worthy winner. I didn't expect her to win. The jury might be out on Terry Harper now after that one. On the undercard, Andy, you saw Chris Billum-Smith knocking out Nathan Thorley. Wasn't sure about Thorley going in. He had an unbeaten record. He was 14-0, but he's fought a lot of the usual suspects, Latvian binmen and that. Billum-Smith can definitely punch, and he's an improving fighter. Tell me about that first before we go on to Fowler.
No, well, as it says, mate, not really much to kind of write home about. Defeated, undefeated, untested fighter. Done what he done, I suppose. Just break him up, smash him out. I'm just going through Twitter trying to find that comment actually about the brain scan about the Fowler fight. I think it was Craig Scott. I think he works for Boxing Social and stuff and Boxing Monthly. He says that he last fought, was it under 2 years ago? He then retired after failing a routine brain scan, saying the risks were too great. I want to remember my own career. And then he gets put in with Fowler there last night and whatever night it was and that, and just gets an absolute beating. What was it, 6-7 rounds it lasted? As I say, Billman Smith, he did what he had to do in that, and I think he'll go on basically pick up the British title at some point. I think he will. Whether he goes on for there and that, we'll wait and see. But it's all really I can add, mate. I mean, I'm not going out my way these days to watch boxing if it doesn't interest me, or if there's no a fighter there I'm not interested in seeing and stuff. And as I said to you last week and that, and I'm not coming across as some sort of arsehole or hater and that, but I'm not wasting my time on this. This is trash. This is what it is. It's trash. I just told you there, what Fowler beat there. Women's boxing holds no incentive for me. I see the 2 and 3 minute round argument debates all of a sudden being cropped up on Twitter with the mainstream media and stuff. All this stuff. Gareth A. Davis, I think Dave Lee got involved in that as well. Put Gareth A. Davis in his place. Yeah, I mean, I heard Canelo was quite satisfied with the performance here last night. Yeah, I mean that's what it is, man. At the end of the day, even next week's card. The only thing I'm really looking forward to in that card is maybe seeing how John Docherty gets on, and then we'll wait to see what we get served up between Dillian White and Povetkin. And obviously, again, mate, I mean, I maybe jumping ahead of ourselves. I'm not really adding much debate here to the actual card and stuff, but Eddie's wanting to have a chat with Frank after his cards and that are completed, which will be at the end of August, I think it is. So hopefully that remains in place and we can get some decent domestic fights going on. Maybe get Buatsi against Yard, for example. People will be kind of wondering what's happening with Buatsi. Fights like that, for example. So we'll wait and see, but hopefully it can only be a good thing that these two can actually kind of break some bread and just put the egos to side and get some business done, because he's a both struggling. Eddie's got like 6 months left on the Sky deal. The zone's breathing down his neck for probably action fights and get something on the go. He's got something in America next week, I think it is. Another the 2 women headlining that card. Frank's claiming he's got all the the big time deal and all that sort of stuff and that as well. So maybe he senses a slight weakness in Eddie's position at the minute with Sky and that. So it might be the right time to try and get a deal struck and maybe safeguard his fighters and get him, get his fighters, Eddie's fighters, sorry, a bit more exposure. And if that's going to be on BT, then we'll wait and see. But as I said, mate, I'm not going out my way to watch his cards and stuff. I forgot about the Showtime card and that, which is probably a pretty poor excuse on my part and that. But I'm sorry, but none of these fights have had my attention at the minute, and it's just purely down to the current situation. Until we get fans back, we're not going to get the big fights. I mean, Lopez is knocking back Lomachenko. Haney's apparently put his name in the ring now as well for that fight. So I think we'll maybe hear something later on this week, hopefully, what's happening with Lomachenko's fight, which I think they're aiming for sometime around about October. So, mate, that's where I'm at the minute with boxing. Hearn's cards. Hearn needs to up his game. People, last week as well proved one thing to me, was like it was all promoter supporter. Eddie put on the best card, that anything better than what Frank's put on at the minute and stuff. I said, look, I don't give a fuck about shows. I want decent fights. And I've said it before, mate, accidental value again last night because the 2 women put on a war, so to speak. Eddie's wanting a rematch, so is it accidental value that we got again there last night? I don't know. I didn't watch it, but some guys can tell me how it went then. But no, I'm about done with it, mate. I'm about done with it.
Yeah, Boxing's First says, I thought Harper looked nervous as hell. I think the war of words put too much pressure on her young shoulders. I thought that as well. Sky were giving her the build-up. Obviously, some of the things they're saying in the background weren't necessarily true. I thought it was interesting during the fight, the way you had Joe Gallagher in one corner, Steffi Bull in the other, and you could hear them shouting, and they got louder and louder, trying to outdo each other because there was no crowd. They were trying to impress the judges. You could hear Joe shouting, "Oh, good shot," and then a couple of seconds later, Steffi was like, "Yeah, that's it." They were trying to land punches almost on behalf of their fighters. So I thought that was quite an interesting dynamic. But yeah, the standard of fights has to go up. If they're spending millions of pounds on this, they don't want to look where their money's going, I suppose. Boxing First throws in as well. Should have been stopped at the end of the 4th. The Fowler fight was getting difficult to watch, especially with the brain scan news. Yeah, it was. I was talking about the fights that were getting difficult to watch last week, actually, and this is another one of them. Fowler, for all his faults, is a power puncher at British title level, and Harper Clearly wasn't. He had no punch whatsoever. Give him another round, the corner kept saying. Give him another round. Give him another round to do what? They just wanted to go the distance. He was showing that he was a tough guy, but he was too tough for his own good. Talking to people too tough for their own good, the chat is full of them. Ricky Gravel's there. Welcome to you, Ricky. Daniel Keane, Lee the Alcoholic Fotch, Khabib's Hat, High Guard Plodder, Jim McDonald. Just get through a few of the 4,000 here. Trading Leather Boxing, AZ or AZ. Don't upset anybody. You know, it's like these days. Stephen Merchant, Chris Bray, Hawker Mustang. Haven't seen you before. Welcome to you, sir. Jay Marriott. Let's have a look down here, shall we? That's it for now. So what about Fowler then, Andy? I think you pretty much summed it up, haven't you? Adam Harper couldn't punch. Fowler was batting him around. You want to see the Fitzgerald rematch? Maybe. What about Fowler against Ted Cheeseman? Could be something, Andy.
Well, I'm sure Fowler mentioned that actually as well. As I've been okay, it's a decent fight for that level, and that is the level that Fowler's at. Cheeseman probably the same. So yeah, I dare say Eddie will probably kind of like look toward that one as well at some point. Whether Fowler deserves, I mean, he's no British champion, is he? Cheeseman, but this is one of the IBF belts he's got. So
yeah,
so it doesn't really matter. I mean, end of the day, it's a decent domestic fight as such. Guys on similar levels, and that. So yeah, get it made. I suppose it's got all the ingredients of a war, I suppose, in that as well. Who'd I favour? Maybe Cheeseman at nickel and points, probably.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting one. Just going down the undercard, Hopi Price defeating Johnny Phillips. Didn't really see too much of that one. Wasn't that fussed on it. And of course, Fiaz was supposed to fight Kane Baker. There was some kind of issues over that. Fiaz pulling out sick. Baker, I think, maybe said he didn't want it. I think that would have been a tough fight for Fiaz, actually. But you have to just take it at face value. We've seen this happen in the past. Obviously, you had the Josh Kelly, Avanesian situation. Jordan Gill could have pulled out and didn't pull out. You don't know. If Fiaz says he's ill, then I suppose you just have to take it as that. You got Quigley as well pulling out against Cullen. Maybe he thought something else was coming up. Did you see anything of the Fiaz thing, Andy? The fiasco, you could call it. In fact, just come up with that one there against Kane Baker. If someone says they're sick, then you just got to pull them. You just got to pull them out, haven't you? You know that's what I think.
Never seen the situation, mate. Sorry.
Right, Gabe, let's move on to stateside, shall we, to the PBC. I know you didn't get to see a lot of this. I actually watched both of the cards this morning. Tom Brown Promotions on Fox. Thomas Delorme. He's a good fighter, Delorme, actually. I know he's had a few losses on his record. He was doing well against Terence Crawford a few years ago. Managed to get to the 12th round here. I saw an ESPN feed where I think it was Barboza Box on Twitter had it a draw at the end, 115 apiece. I thought Jamal James was a fair winner. The scores came in at 117, 111, 115, 113, and 116, 112, all in favour of James. I think he's an exciting guy. He's not the best in the world, and he's going to come unstuck against better fighters, but he has a good gas tank, good engine, can throw plenty of shots. And he did a good job against Thomas Delorme. Have you seen anything of James? How far do you think his ceiling is, Gabe?
I haven't seen enough to really give much of a say. I didn't watch the show last night. I just really honestly didn't feel like it. Just wasn't really bothered by anything on the card. I mean, typically I'll watch just about all of it that I can get, as long as I have access to it. A lot of times I'll be familiar with one person on the cards that I, have a vested interest to watch just because I'm somewhat of a fan of their particular style or what have you. But I didn't give a shit about anybody on the card, to be honest. I don't know. I really wouldn't have a good say on how on the ceiling of James at this point, just because I don't think I've seen enough. I mean, I may have seen more than I'm thinking, but I feel like right now I've only seen a couple of fights of his. And, like you said, he's not tremendous. I mean, he's not going to be a top guy of any division that he's in. But at the same time, I mean, he give a lot of people a run for their money. And like you said, Delorme is a solid guy. He definitely, again, not a world beater, but definitely a solid fighter. So, just didn't fancy anything that was on the card, so I didn't pick up on any of it. I'm just kind of a little bit tired of just the bullshit cards. I'm ready to see some really good matchups, and we're not getting them because I think part of the problem is that, they're not getting the money from ticket sales. And so that makes it a little bit harder to get two good guys in because they're getting paid so much that they don't want to face each other for less money, which I think is a problem. Because really, right now, the sport, well, maybe in the month or two previously, it really had a chance to be big, because there was nothing else on. But now we've got, in the States anyway, we've got basketball back, we've got baseball back. So it already lost the opportunity that was there to present itself in a really positive light. All it was mismatches, and now it's just kind of middle of the pack shit. This is an example of what I would expect to see on the Zone with one of their cards. I typically, the Zone does have a few good fights throughout the year that they put on, but this is kind of their primary shit. Those main cards that they're always having on. Just it's middle of the road. I don't give a fuck about that anymore. I'm tired of watching it.
Thumbs down from Gabe. Yeah, Jamal James lost to your Dennis Ugas in 2016. He's had a few decent wins since then. Donut Dan, you might remember him. Diego Chavez managed to stop him. Majority over Abel Ramos. Nobody really has an easy night with Ramos. And then that last fight with Antonio DeMarco was really exciting, but I think he took a few too many shots. And against someone of DeMarco's level, that's maybe a bit of a warning sign. Vacant interim WBA World Welterweight title was on the line. So congratulations to James if he's calling himself a world champion. Also, interestingly on that card, I don't expect you to talk about it, Andy, but I thought I would mention this. There was a super middleweight called David Morrell. I'd never heard of him before, but he fought a guy called Lennox Allen. Allen was 22-0-1. Morrell, fighting for an interim WBA super middleweight title, won by scores of 119, 109, 120, 108, 118, 110. He's only 2-0, Morrell. He's now 3-0 with 2 knockouts. Cuban, 22 years of age, took on this guy Allen with 23 fights and won an interim world title. He looked really impressive, threw a lot of shots, gassed out a bit as the fight went on, as you'd expect. But apparently, I think he was a gold medalist in the Olympics at some point. Osvary David Morrell Gutierrez, he's called himself David Morrell, a super middleweight. I don't know if you've got any interest in him, but I mean, he's going the Lomachenko route, world title, quote unquote, in his 3rd fight.
That's good. I was Cuban, so I dare say we have a couple of national titles and stuff, especially if he's getting fast track like that. Who was promoting that card last night, just out of interest?
It's PBC. Tom Brown. He's like a proxy promoter for
right.
Heyman, isn't he?
Right. Take a wee note of that. And then just for something kind of, so super middleweight, you said? A Cuban super middleweight?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, but apparently, yeah.
Jeez. Maybe go and check that fight out then when it hits the torrents and stuff.
Yeah, torrents are a bit weak at the moment. That's a discussion for another day, Andy. Do you want to go over to Spain? Not literally, be a bit too hot there for the likes of us. John Carter, the most un-Spanish name in history, against Ibon Larinaga and Kerman Lejaraga, getting a win over Tyrone Nurse, who's starting to rack up the defeats now.
John Carter also looks like he's non-Spaniard, and that he's whiter than me, man, and I'm kind of pale blue. So that's like a rematch for amateur rematch. I think it was. John Carter picks up the vacant EBU, that secondary tier European title, 8-round stoppage. Kerman Lejaraga pretty much, had it his own way, really. Nurse, apparently he was struggling to make the weight. He was a bit cagey like he normally is and stuff, and probably had these slight pockets of success. But in the end, it's just Lejaraga was just strong, throwing hard punches, and that really just kind of set the tempo, really kind of made himself the boss and that. So I don't know where he's at this point, actually. I suppose. I mean, I like to see him kind of who's the European champ at that weight at the minute? Still Avanesian?
He should be, as far as I know.
So really, we're not needing anything along those lines at the minute. But I think he's reached his ceiling, I think, to be honest with you. Light middleweight, European level and that, but she's decent. And Nurse, that's now, 5 defeats in the spin now, I think it is. So clearly kind of confidence building. Plus he's a non-puncher. So he was no threat to Lejaraga, but clearly just kind of getting some rust off and that, just to see where he's at and that. But I don't know what we'll do with him next and stuff, but I don't foresee him kind of getting past European level at this point anyway. They must be. I can't see much improvements from him, really, to be honest with you either. So we'll wait and see what he does next.
Yeah, just on Avanesian, he is still the European champion. He had a fight in December 2019, defending 1st round knockout against Jose Del Rio. I think that was maybe some kind of non-title thing, but he's been out of action for about 8 months. He's floating by Avanesian now, isn't he? Maybe missing his ceiling for no fault of his own as well, to a certain extent.
Josh Kelly, kind of backing out in the fight, and then obviously the fight was set. Then we had the pandemic hit, and then obviously Kelly's now going up in weight. Was he going to light middleweight? I think now, eh?
Oh, has he moved
Well,
up and all? Yeah,
aye,
they were
I'm
talking
certain.
about it. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they were moving up in weight. Aye, so again, I think it's a shame for Evanescence really because he had opportunities sitting on the line there for him to as well, and it's just no fault of his own. He's been shafted as such, one is a pandemic and one's just like, Adam Booth being the fucking Dark Lord and that just kind of pulling out at the last minute, which was a bloody shame because I know a lot of guys had a lot of money in that fight, but really kind of thinking that Evanescence was going to do the business. And it's at this point in his career to just like, when you're in that crest of a wave and that, you want to kind of keep that momentum going, and it's just been shot to pieces.
Let's get the momentum rolling. Joining us on the call, first guest of the evening, it's Rob Tebbutt. How are you, Rob?
Hello, Stephen. Good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Keeping well. We're talking about a fight camp earlier. Were you all over it?
I don't know, all over it. I was sitting down eating a kebab while I was watching it in my living room. So I watched the fights. Yeah, I watched the show. Obviously, wasn't there. Yeah, watched it.
What about Harper Jonas, their main event? Pretty good stuff. Undercard as well, wasn't it? I don't think it was the strongest. It'd probably be the weakest of the four overall.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Chris Billum-Smith and Nathan Fawley always going in. That was always going to be heavily weighted in Chris Billum-Smith's favour. Naturally, the bigger guy, Nathan Fawley, not long coming up from light heavyweight. I don't quite know how he made light heavyweight. I mean, he's not quite filled out into cruiserweight, but he's still like 6'4", 6'5". But I thought Chris Billum-Smith boxed very well, but he was kind of, he was a heavy favourite going in, but did the job in a couple of rounds. Anthony Fowler and Adam Harper was one-way traffic for a lot longer than I cared to have watched it. I thought it should really have been stopped after 4 rounds. I thought Fowler showed some good improvements under Shane McGuigan, but there wasn't an awful lot coming back at him. Obviously, the tests are going to come for Fowler when he's at, fighting Cheeseman, Fitzgerald rematch, or even somebody like Sam Eggington or the winner of Kieran Conway, Nav Mansouri. I thought that fight went on a bit too long. To just touch upon what we were talking about earlier about the brain scan of Adam Harper, Kieran Smith, obviously another 154-pounder, was due to fight him. And I was on a Zoom call with Kieran a couple of weeks ago, and Kieran said that, he had a brain scan come up. I'm not sure what exactly was wrong, but there was something that essentially made him withdraw from the fight and sort of mini retirement really, and then came back, and that was his first fight after 2 years. So for me, in retrospect especially, it kind of makes the corner work that little bit more difficult to understand. If you know that somebody's gone through that and been out of the ring for 2 years, then I thought he took some needless hammer for a few rounds. Hopey Price, again, relatively one-sided fight. Johnny Phillips came, had a go, tried to make it a little bit rough for him, but Hopey Price pretty much saw it out for out. I think it would have gone a couple more rounds. He might have been able to make more of a dent in Johnny Phillips. But the main event was excellent. Really, really good fight. A lot more competitive than I'd anticipated going in. I think similar to a lot of people. I was really impressed with Tasha Jonas, but I was quite disappointed with Terry Harper. I thought Terry Harper against Eva Wallstrom boxed a lot more of a smarter fight. I thought she was... she thought about things a lot more there, whereas I feel like she got sucked into fighting Tasha Jonas's fight at times, so I thought was really, really good on the inside. I felt like Tasha Jonas landed the eye-catching shots throughout. I had it for her for a couple of rounds. Can't really argue with a 95-95, I don't think, but I felt Tasha Jonas won the fight, but it was a great fight, which not a lot of people expected going in. Obviously, Terry Harper was Canelo's favourite fighter. She's going to go in there and she's going to do this and that and what have you. But I thought Tasha Jonas boxed very well.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment of the main event. I thought Jonas did, and she dragged Harper into her type of fight. Regarding the access point of view, obviously Frank's had shows, Eddie's had shows. You obviously work for Boxing Social. What's the deal with access? What have you been told, going forward, how this is all going to plan out? Have you been given any assurances or anything?
No assurances. I think everybody is somewhat at the mercy still of the guidelines from the British Boxing Board of Control. I think they're very, very stringent. We saw early Frank Warren shows. It was like watching something from like a futuristic, it just looked completely crazy. But I think they're going to start potentially relaxing them. But we've had no assurances or kind of idea as to when or if we'll be going to Fight Camp or the BT studios. But to be honest, I mean, I understand that, you know, if you start inviting a couple or two or three and then everybody wants to come, and that's just not possible under the guidelines. And at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's taken long enough for us to get boxing on as it is. And I feel like the board have had to go in very, very weighty with the health and safety restrictions. And it's just meant that, yeah, unfortunately, no place for us, which is obviously not ideal. I'm about done with Zoom interviews, I think. But it's just one of those things, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like organising a wedding, isn't it? You let one cousin come, you got to let them all.
Yeah, pretty much. And, you know, I understand that's not possible. We've gone down to Fight Camp on a couple of occasions to interview Eddie. Obviously, the fighters are in quarantine by then. I think Eddie has to come out of quarantine and then get a maybe another COVID test or something. I don't know how he does it, but he'll come out, do the interviews, and then go back into the bubble. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, there's not really any plans for us to cover any shows at the shows anytime soon. So we're kind of, you know, just doing the best with what we can, still covering the shows and the build-up. Spent the last couple of days trying to chase up fighters for Zoom interviews, which isn't really easy because they've spent the whole week in quarantine. So they just want to just not sit behind a phone or a laptop and do an interview, which you have to respect. So it's just like anything throughout COVID. There's new obstacles and new ways that you have to try and work and try and, you know, still do your job, which is ultimately to cover the fighters and cover the shows. So, yeah.
Yeah, talking about Eddie and Frank, we briefly touched upon this earlier. We will discuss it later as well. Obviously, Frank sent out the email looking to get it on. We've had Billy Joe Saunders fight John Ryder on Box Nation in the past. We've had Bradley Skeet against Sam Eggington. Maybe one or two fights might slip through between the two. Are you hopeful that Eddie and Frank might get something together?
I'm hopeful that the mandated fights might come off. But outside of that, I mean, I think some of them are just wholly unrealistic, and you have to question kind of the motives behind suggesting those fights. Daniel Dubois is not going to fight Dillian White next in a million years. It's just not going to happen. It makes no sense. So that kind of, I've interviewed a few people who have kind of pointed to that as kind of a weird starting point to go off. You know, if I can kind of picture it in my head now, Eddie and Frank meeting, if that's the first fight they want to discuss, I don't think that's got any legs whatsoever. So that's not really and that's the most high profile fight on there. Obviously, you've got Liam Williams and Demetrius Andrade. That's been ordered. Chris Jenkins, Conor Benn's been ordered. But obviously, there's the kind of the back and forth between the two camps even now after these, you know, phone calls and olive branches as such, where, you know, Conor Benn had made an offer for Chris Jenkins to box at Fight Camp like a matter of weeks ago, and apparently that was, you know, wasn't deemed worthy by Warren or whatever Eddie's saying about it. So again, it's like after so many months and years of this bitter rivalry, all of a sudden the next week they're going to be friends and make these fights. I don't see certainly a lot of them happening. I think the fight that does make sense, and it also has created a lot of buzz, is Buatsi versus Anthony Yarde. I think that's a brilliant fight, and I think that can be made. But I mean, Eddie's already come out and said that, you know, it's not going to happen this year. He said that to Andy from Boxing Social yesterday when they did the interview. So how quickly Frank wants to get on with things. I mean, if they can just have a conversation and it be civil, as in, you know, let's do this again or let's discuss this fight, then that's great. That's a step in the right direction. But, you know, I think Eddie kind of hit the nail on the head in an interview. I think he did with Umar with IFL when he said, you know, if Frank would have just called me up and suggested these things, then it, you know, it does lend itself more to thinking, okay, he really wants to get it done. And, you know, I see what Eddie's saying with that. You know, if you make a call or, you know, you want to work something out, you give somebody a call, right? You don't send out a big press release. But, you know, maybe that's just their way of doing it, the shock factor. And, you know, Eddie's not shy of making a statement or two and doing things in public. So at the end of the day, if it leads to some fights and some cross-promotional fights, I'm all for it. But I do think it's going to be really, really difficult. That's just my honest opinion. I can't see a lot of those fights happening.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a pessimist. I don't think they'll happen either. I've seen it in boxing too many times. Unfortunately, politics gets in the way. But you never know. They might reach across to each other and make a few of them. Ben Farouki, friend of the pod, was telling me that you are the only British reporter to have covered all of Tyson Fury's comeback fights. Any decent anecdotes? How have you found it so far following Fury around the world?
I don't know. I don't know. It's difficult to kind of put your finger on it because you're in fight week and you're running around, and then before you know it, it's kind of over. And I only see Fury kind of as and when we're doing interviews, which can be 2 minutes or 15 minutes, once in the week. One story. So I went to interview him. So I interviewed him in Vegas, and he sort of messed about and was, I don't know, he was stood in front of a load of people and he was kind of being the showman and showing off sort of thing. The interview actually did really well for us. We managed to get a good title and a good thumbnail. It did really well, but he pissed about for the whole interview, really, as he does sometimes. He'd done a whole day of media, wasn't really interested in doing me, doesn't really know me. So it's fair enough. Next time we go to do an interview, so it's I think that was for the Schwartz fight, and then this was for the Wallen fight. And I'd kind of made a point in my head of thinking, right, I'm going to get something good with him, because I've never, ever got anything good with Fury until that point. I'd always either been told no or had like 1 or 2 minute interviews where he, couldn't wait to get out of there. So it's hard to pin him down. He has done, he's done 20, 30 interviews, just wants to go. So I kind of prepared and went through like, okay, I'm going to ask this. And if he kind of flat bats that, then we're going to ask that and do a little bit more interesting interviews. It was around the time where everybody was talking about Joshua and Wilder and blah, blah, blah. And he just wanted to talk about himself. So he comes over to me before we start the interview. We were at Top Rank office and he goes, "Hello there, Rob." And I went, "Oh, hello, Tyson." He goes, "Got to give you a good interview today, haven't I? Because I pissed about last time." And I went, yeah, that'd be really good, Tyson. He said, "I tell you what, my brother Shane's over there. If you let him punch you in the face, I'll give you the best interview you've ever had in your life." And I went, "Can he punch me in the stomach?" And he went, "Yep, Shane, get over here." And Shane lifted my shirt up, wound back with a big hook, and then stopped. And Fury went, "Right, you can have the interview then." And then we sat down, we did the interview, and it went well. And then it was an interview where we kind of talked about his roots and Andy Lee. And funnily enough, the Kronk gym and the time that he spent at the Kronk gym, and obviously ended up going back to those roots in his next fight after that. And then when I came over for the Fury fight, for the Wilder rematch, he remembered that kind of incident beforehand, and it was nice. And we actually had it was a 6 or 7 minute interview, but he was a lot more cordial and he was a lot more welcoming than he had been in the past, because I think he realised that I really just wanted to do the interview. So yeah, that's probably my Fury anecdote. But I mean, as far as covering him, I mean, it's probably been the best thing that I have to keep my voice down because my missus is nearby, but it's one of the best things that I've ever done in my life.
You might be getting punched in the stomach eventually tonight if you're not careful.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I can say this. I mean, my missus isn't quite as powerfully built as Shane Fury, so I'm not as worried about that. But yeah, I mean, it's been fantastic. It's went over to the Pianetta fight in Belfast, and Wilder coming over there, and him and John Fury at the weigh-in, and then before we kind of even like going over on the plane to Wilder Fury 1, couldn't really quite believe it was happening. We'd seen him look so mediocre in his 2 comeback fights, and he was going over lamb to the slaughter in some people's eyes against Deontay Wilder, and it was, you had Eddie every interview going, I still don't think it's going to happen, like until the first bell goes, and then that kind of breeds that around, and then obviously the fight itself was incredible. We kind of waited for the rematch, and it shocked everyone with the ESPN deal, and yeah, it's been a pretty crazy time covering him, and I think it's probably one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah, just to close out on Fury, it's interesting because obviously I'm based in Belfast, and we got him for a period when he was with Mick Hennessy, the Channel 5 fights. He fought Nikolai Firth, Kevin Johnson, which was one of the worst fights I was ever at, Martin Rogan. And he hasn't changed. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It was different then because he wasn't obviously the big star that he is now, and he hadn't got the higher profile. So you had more access to him, and you got more interviews and longer interviews. But he hasn't changed personality-wise that I can see. He was still the same back then. I mean, he used to come off with some of the most ridiculous things you've ever heard, but it was a good laugh back in Belfast then as well. And obviously he's gone on to achieve what he has, but it doesn't sound like he's changed too much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an extensive, long relationship with Fury, and so I can't comment on what I found him like back then, but I mean, he has a kind of weird ability, not a weird ability, I mean, it's just the ability to command the room sort of thing. He's very, very engaging, very charismatic, and he is kind of an everyday man. I mean, whether or not you believe some of the things he says, I mean, he is ever the showman, and dousing his hands in gasoline and having 7 wanks a day, and some of that stuff's not the most creative, genius things that he's ever said, but there are times where It's usually, to be fair, when the written guys who are the real journalists and actually very good at their job, when they're interviewing him and I get to kind of eavesdrop on the round table, that's always really good because he does open up to them. And yeah, he is a really, really fascinating character, Fury. It's just, I think probably a little part of me is a little bit not gutted, but I wish I did know him from a longer period of time ago as opposed to probably the last 3-ish years. So yeah, I can imagine what he was like, but he's still seemingly a humble guy.
Just final one for you, Rob, before we let you go. We're big history buffs over here as well. You like a bit of James Toney. What's your favourite James Toney moment, performance, fight, etc.?
Favourite moment is probably difficult. That's difficult.
Girov was a great fight, wasn't he?
The Girov fight's a great fight. I'm tempted to go with that as well because I once spoke to Freddie Roach about it in LA for Wilder 3-1 actually, and we were talking about kind of the infamous commentary where he's talking about, and he just go out there and put this guy on his ass like this round. Obviously, he goes out there and he puts him on his ass. 15 seconds to go. Manny Steward's going crazy. The Iran Barkley fight is just a wonderful performance. Second fight, the way some questions about going in against a big guy in Iran Barkley. Iran Barkley, like a heavyweight, boiled himself down to those middleweight, super middleweight, dangerous guy, and Toney just stood in the pocket and beat the shit out of him. That was an awesome performance. But I think my favourite Toney fight / moment, Mike McCallum won the first Mike McCallum fight, which was the draw. Was I always say to people, like, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against Gatti Ward's, Barrera Morales, these toe-to-toe action fights, but you get a fight like that where it's skill and countering the counter, and McCallum's probably slightly on the way down, wasn't quite at his best at 160, and Toney's slightly on the way up, still not quite the finished article, and they kind of met in the middle. And I spoke to McCallum about that randomly in Vegas, and he was saying that each fight that he fought against James Toney, he could tell that he was improving as a fighter and taking little bits from each fight. And yeah, I think probably that. I actually said to Mike McCallum, I said, James Toney was a great fighter. And he said, James Toney was a bad boy. And then he'd give me a little dig in the ribs. And he said, I was a bad boy too. And I said, okay. Yeah, I know, Mike, don't hurt me. But yeah, so I'd probably say that, the first McCallum fight.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to take a dig in the ribs from Mike McCallum. At heavyweight as well, Toney went up there, fought Evander Holyfield. Obviously, there's question marks about his heavyweight reign because of the PEDs, John Ruiz fight and all that. But the way he dissected Holyfield, it was a masterclass, really.
Yeah, fantastic fight. And, everyone always looks back at kind of the gif of him sticking the tongue out and stuff, and everyone always points to the fact that Holyfield was still past his best, but it's still fucking Evander Holyfield. Like, James Toney started his career as a middleweight. So, I mean, like in the Samuel Peter fights as well, like standing there and trading with like a 260-pound Sam Peter is like, considering you started your career as a middleweight, it's just incredible. And yeah, James Toney, don't get me wrong, as a heavyweight, would he, would I pick him against the modern era of heavyweights, the giants? And probably not, no. But that's kind of the thing with him and Roy. Like, Roy went up and obviously did his thing against John Ruiz, but James Toney stood in there and traded with these big guys, catch and counter. And, I think he's a wonderful example of an aggressive defensive fighter, which I think people, certainly modern day, will look at a defensive fighter as simply somebody who moves around the ring, uses a lot of lateral movement, whereas the kind of art of infighting, your James Toney, Roberto Duran, etc., Pernell Whitaker, another person who would make people miss in the pocket and come back with his own counters. I think that's probably becoming not a forgotten art, but people don't necessarily associate that with good defensive boxing. So yeah, that's my James Toney take.
Yes, we'll have a bit of James Toney here. Thanks for joining us, Rob. I appreciate it. Come back again.
Thanks very much, guys. Thank you.
All the best now. Cheers.
Cheers.
Rob Tebbutt there, Andy. We'll have a bit of James Toney, don't we, on this? I was thinking the Michael Nunn fight. Obviously, I was a big Michael Nunn fan. Didn't see it at the time. I was too young, but I keep watching it back and thinking maybe Michael will get him. Maybe he'll hold out. He's boxing well here, and James Toney catches him every time. Was it the left hook or the big right hand? I can't remember. I think it might have been the left hook.
I think it might have been the left hook, mate. Again, the thing with Toney was if he's motivated and that, he could beat anybody. I mean, end of the day, as well as there was talk about him and Roy fighting. Months before they actually did face off. He was going into that fight. Maybe had that topsy-turvy fight with Prince Charles Williams. He ended up with a massive knockout in the 12th round. really kind of close fight in the cards and that. So he was prone to have, like say, his lapses and stuff. I mean, there was that guy, one of the Americans, forget top of my head at the minute. Oh, it's no Drake. What's his name? There was an opponent that he faced, remember, and it was like a disgusting decision. I think he won a split decision and stuff, and he got basically booed out the ring. I can't mind what his name is. Is it Tiberi?
Was it, no?
Tiberi.
Oh, Dave Tiberi.
Yeah.
Worst robbery of all time.
Yeah, they do say that. Doug DeWitt and Iran Bartley. Bartley at that point maybe seen better days. But yeah, I mean, obviously, he defied time, got up in weight, did have his great moments and stuff, but another one who went on too long, took too much punishment. They do say the best defence is a chin that doesn't get cracked. Well, his chin never got cracked as such, but he took a fair bit of punishment on it over the time in that as well. And you see him, he never really got budged really or dinged up at heavyweight or cruiserweight and that. And just again testament as to that old school style that he had, able to defend and ride the shot, ride the power, and then come back with counter shots and stuff. But whenever I hear the name Toney and that, the first thing you think about is a Vasily Yarov fight. It's always the one you think about, and this Manny Stewart going batshit mental on the commentary and stuff. It's just one of the great fights.
Certainly is one of the great fights. We love a bit of James Toney over here. Shout out to Ronnie Hussein, friend of the pod. He was asking me how you become a friend of the pod. This is it, Ronnie. You've left a few comments. We love you over here. Don't forget, everybody, as well, the Boxing Asylum is sponsor-free, ad-free as well. We operate on a value-for-value model, I suppose, here, really, if you think about it. So if you think you're getting a bit of value, hit the like button or the dislike button. If you think we're shit, hit the subscribe button. A rating, review, return, anything you can. We appreciate it. Maybe you want to head on over to patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. There's loads on offer, including a bit of this.
Hey, Steve.
About 204.
Yeah, hopefully everybody heard that. I had a few mic issues there, Gabe. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear.
Yeah, good to go. I was just going to say, whenever you were mentioning likes, dislikes, so on and so forth, you motherfuckers don't forget we're a worldwide organization. So better watch how you hit that dislike button, motherfucker.
Yeah, worldwide organisation. Maybe turning up to venue near you soon. Who knows? Maybe a pool party in Lake Tahoe or something. Contact has been made. The asylum could be going California side very soon. Let's get.
Just didn't invite Michael Barrymore to the pool party.
We'll be out of our depth.
Oh, more than that, mate. You keep in the barrel as well.
Oh dear. Hey to Dave's on the call. We'll get to you very shortly, Dave. You are very welcome. Let's shout out some of the Patreon guys, our top-level subscribers who support us every week. We couldn't do it without you. Well, we probably could, but we love you anyway. Daniel Adams, Jason Cheel, Ryan Deal, John Swan, Jasper, Owen Spillane, Nathan Newman. Not been in the chat tonight, Nathan. Hopefully you're well. David Doyle, Gav, James, Bernard, Danny Young, Ted Barrett, Joe Kennedy, friend of the pod, a regular chat contributor, Martin Swaggy Taggy, and Steve Turton, whose podcast dropped on our feed this week. Go and check them out. More names later. The only name you need to know about here is the official voice of American boxing. It's Dave, the hater, Lowback, live and exclusive in Baltimore. How you doing, Dave?
Hey, what's up, guys? I've seen nothing from this weekend. I'm here to talk whatever boxing we can.
You're in good company, Dave, actually, because we haven't watched a hell of a lot either. I have a question for you, though. Done, says Errol Spence. The king of the division is back. November the 21st on Fox pay-per-view. Errol Spence versus Danny Swift. Man down. Hope he's not going to flip out the car again. Hashtag strap season as well. Spence versus Garcia, Dave.
See, I saw Spence talking. He was bitching about not being included on the cover of Ring Magazine, as if that matters. They put Ronda Rousey on there, for God's sake. No, but he was saying, why am I not on here? I'm back from like his accident, but he's not back. He hasn't fought yet. We don't know what he's going to look like. I would lean 60%, he still got it. He still got at least enough to handle Garcia. Garcia is a very good fighter. And I've never liked him, so it's not, I'm not saying that as, a Garcia fan or a Spence hater. But I think there's a very good chance Garcia actually upsets him here and catches him with a well-timed left hook, breaks his teeth, his newly acquired teeth, and sends him into the dustbin of history.
Into the dustbin of history, Andy. Errol Spence, Garcia. For all of his faults, Garcia, he's a tough guy. He can box.
Mhm.
We've seen him take lumps against Lucas Matisse and win. He's got a big left hook. This isn't the bum Errol Spence is coming against. We slag Garcia off. He's a world champion. He's a good fighter. We can't write him off completely. He's a good opponent.
Yeah, he is, and to be honest, I think I've seen some comments that Spence is going to walk through him. I think people, what are you smoking? What planet are you on? We didn't know what Spence is bringing to the table apart from a belt. At the end of the day, is Garcia's been mixing around about championship title levels now for how many years, and he's usually either been competitive or always been in the shout of winning the fight. Will need to be respected as well. I mean, Spence doesn't want to try and take risks early, I suppose. We need to watch the counter left hook for Garcia, definitely. And again, as I say, we've no form guide for Spence at the minute. Apart from his ability to flip cars and ride horses and stuff like that. The other thing as well is at least Danny's had a fight in the last, this year at least, but he's not been active as such, shall we say, over the course of the last year, 18 months or whatever, 2 years. Porter's probably his last solid fight. Okay, he lost it, but it was a tough one. And then obviously, I think Spence, did he then fight Porter later on that same year? I think it was, and basically kind of pushed all the way again there as well. So it's a decent comeback fight at the end of the day as well. I'm sure I read somewhere that both fighters were actually offered a tune-up fight and both rejected it. So fair play to them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Step right in there. And same to Spence as well. Okay, it's taken a wee bit longer. I think they said they were hoping to get him out by July time. This is like going back a few months and stuff. So it's been pushed back to November, which is fair enough because I think he had surgically implanted posts or something in his mouth to try and sort his teeth out and stuff.
Surgically implanted tits by the look of it.
Yeah, hey, listen. I'll get to that in the belly of the week, okay?
Could breastfeed a creche with them.
Oh, baby, man. Listen, I went to a woman with a cup that size actually once. Jesus, man. He's been getting milked pretty heavily. Oh, my God. I see one comment on Twitter, but I can't throw it out there just now because my daughter's kind of floating about, so I'll keep it clean as much as possible just now. But on the fight itself, I mean, I think there's been some people kind of talking about conspiracies that you never see pictures with Errol Spence with his hands showing and stuff like that. His hands all mangled up, so we don't know. At the end of the day, there's this. As long as we get to November, he's fit and ready, and the fight, basically it stays in place as we know it. I don't think he's got a venue yet or whatever and stuff, but hopefully it goes ahead. And shall I say it? It's a crossroads fight for both guys at this point. Even though Spence is undefeated and either in a world title holder and stuff, we just don't know where he's at. And that, to me, considering his past problems and stuff like that, is a crossroad fight for me. Garcia as well, as I say, is coming back into that as well. A chance at a world title. So I'm not going to pick a winner at this point, but I do like the fight. Again, as I say, I just want to see what Spence is at and that as well. And I say, fair play to both guys because they could easily have ducked it as well. But again, the PBC have got a monopoly on this division, and I don't think they could make a boring fight in the division. To be honest with you, I think they've got Spence, they've got Porter, they've got Garcia. Thurman, we'll put a line through him at the minute. I just don't know where he's at the minute and that, but you suppose you could throw him in there. Vargas, who got beat off Virgil Ortiz there as well, could maybe be floating about in that as well. Some decent fights in that. But at some point as well, as there's a name I threw in there, Steve. At some point, the day of reckoning is going to happen. At some point, we'll wait and see. But Virgil Ortiz knocking on the door as well. At some
we
point,
like him. Yeah,
I really do like the look of that guy. So. And to be honest, I think he's ready for any of these other world title holders at the minute. I really do believe that. There's no point in him now fighting guys like Sammy Vargas. That he's beat them. He's beat Juan Carlos Salgado. He's beat ex-world champions and stuff. So put him in there. I think he's ready, 22, 23-year-old, and that. He's maybe not a trash talker and that, but what he does is very, very mechanically sound. Great jab, great power. And when he cuts loose, man, it's bad intentions. And you just think he can maybe catch like Spence, Garcia, and that at the back end of their careers who made their money, maybe not as hungry as this kid is coming up and that. But my God, what power this guy's got, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, Gabe, some of the boys in the chat questioning whether Garcia's getting this big payday to sort of come back, slide through, make Spence look good for the Crawford fight. What are we expecting from Spence? I've heard the rumours, like everybody else has, that we haven't seen his hands, he's mangled. Surely if everything's genuine and above board as we expect it to be, then Spence against Garcia is a good fight and it's a good acid test. Imagine the scenes if Spence gets past Garcia legitimately and then goes on to beat Crawford. It's going to be one of the greatest comebacks since Lazarus, Gabe. What are we looking for from Spence here? What does he have to do to impress you? Is it a case of just seeing where he's at, basically?
I kind of going into it with not a lot of expectations, just because I don't know what possibilities there are. I mean, the worst end of the spectrum is his hands are no good and brittle, and as soon as he hits Garcia, crack, his hands are just going to crumble into fucking dust. I mean, that's one potential end of it. The other end of it is, can he take a punch now? From what we were told, he had minor injuries, such as lacerations and stuff. I can't imagine that he wouldn't have had any kind of trauma to his senses, so what kind of punch will he be able to take? There's so many questions that are going on in my head whenever I think about it. And then you have the opposite end where everything that people were saying right after that was true, or what the people in the camp were trying to say was that he was really perfectly fine, just aside from a few scratches and fucking cuts and stuff. So, there's such a huge spectrum of things. I don't personally know what I'm looking for. That's going to be like the signal, the definitive sign to me that says, yeah, he's good to go. But I think it's kind of a combination of several different things. What does his quickness look like? So that to me is going to be a big concern, and tell us a little bit about how bad or possibly not the car accident was on his mind-body connection. Because I would assume that if his brain is in good shape, he can still see it, but how quick is he going to be to react and to set his muscles in motion? So that's kind of one thing. I'm hoping to see some quickness. I'm hoping to see some solid punching. If he's not committing with his punches, that's not the same Spence, and that really takes away what some of his strongest attributes are. Spence isn't really a guy that's going to sit there and really mix it up a whole lot into a lot of off-time punches or kind of hold back on his punches. He seems to typically punch with a pretty steady hand as far as his power goes. But then the one telling thing, and I think this is going to be the biggest thing, and obviously will have a direct impact on the fight, is how does he take a punch? We all see it can crack. And if Garcia connects with a hook on him, that's Garcia's best punch. Whether it's a left or right hook, he's gotten several guys in trouble with right hooks as well. Left hook is probably his best weapon. But if he connects with a hook on Errol Spence, what happens then? That'll tell us everything we need to know in my estimation. Because Garcia is a guy that's going to get his licks in. He's definitely going to land. But I think the question is just how clean and what it does in the end. Because we've seen, Danny has separated guys from their senses like Khan in several other fights, and what he did to Eric Morales. But we're talking about guys without a steady chin at that particular point. So I'm just hoping to see a good, solid fight and the best of both guys. Because if we get to see the best of both guys, it should be a pretty damn good show.
Yeah, shout out to Al Heyman. He knows what he's doing. Also, Dave, I know you're a big fan of Andre, son of God, Ward. He was tweeting out this week to Eddie Hearn. Bit disrespectful for a great boxing man like Eddie. Ward said, with all due respect to Mr. Hearn, who seems to have a lot to say about everyone else's businesses, should manage his own affairs across the pond and let everyone else do the same. His opinion is not the absolute voice on what's good for boxing. Carry on. What do you think about that, Dave Ward, suggesting that Eddie's opinion is not the absolute voice on world boxing?
That was specifically related to the Jones Tyson exhibition, right? Because Eddie's been crying about it, probably crying because he doesn't have a hand in it. There's no way Eddie cares about, the health of his fighters or anything. I mean, he's done this before, Oh, we got to clean up the spill. We never saw a drug cheat fight. Oh, look, we got Dillian White and Povetkin coming up, the big comeback pay-per-view. I mean, it's typical from Eddie. And Eddie, what did he was responsible for Tommy Coyle versus Katsitas, right? One of the saddest displays I can remember in a matchroom card. That was just embarrassing. And this isn't much different than that. The only thing is, at least both guys are old, and both guys are shot. So, and it's only an exhibition, 8-round exhibition. Who knows? Maybe they'll just have a little fun. I'd hope it was choreographed by Vince McMahon. I think that would be better for all concerned. But as far as Andre Ward, I mean, he is leagues above Eddie Hearn as a voice in boxing. So I would have to side with him, even though I don't think the fight is really a great idea.
So just to clarify, Dave, you're not happy with Roy Jones against Mike Tyson. Will you be there in Lake Tahoe, poolside with us, presiding over the fight?
If you guys are going, yeah, sure, I'll go.
Lovely job. Hey to Dave Lowe back there. Right, Andy. Over in Russia, Saturday the 15th of August, and I don't know if you have any opinions on this one or not. Cruiserweight Ruslan Fafer, last seen by me, defeating an 18-0 guy. Also lost to Andrew Tabiti in the World Series of Boxing in 2018. That was the one loss on his record, 25-1. Going in against another guy who is 11-1, Alexei Papan, who I believe was last seen losing for the WBC title against Ilunga Makabu out in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So this is in Russia. Ruslan Fafer against Alexei Papan. That's an interesting 12-rounder comeback fight for the two boys.
Yeah, it is. I'm sure it's an eliminator as well for WBC title at cruiserweight. So, obviously the winner will probably get drafted in it to fight Makabu, who I think's got the belt now. But yeah, that Papan fight actually took place on the Kovalev Yard undercard. I remember seeing it. I'm sure Papan got they didn't get stopped. I'm sure it got dropped late in that fight.
Yeah, you're quite right, Andy. Sorry, it wasn't in Congo. There was another one Makabu had in Congo at a point. That was actually in Russia.
Oh, is it Machunu?
I can't remember that. Makabu had a fight recently, I think, which took place in Congo. Let's have a look.
The Polish guy.
Sislak, the Polish guy.
That's right. That's right. I remember watching that. We made up some forests and stuff. Yeah, but it's supposed to be a kind of decent enough card, I suppose. Well, it looks quite solid, shall we say? A lot of undefeated fighters and that. But yeah, I mean, the top of the bill. To be honest, I'm not sold on either guy in that, but in terms of names, especially for Russian boxing, that it should do well, and I'm sure they're allowing fans into, especially at the football and that. I'm sure they're allowing fans in and stuff, so they might have a limited number of fans into this one as well. But yeah, we want to maybe keep a wee eye on because. What else you got? You've got the Hearn card on the Friday. You've got is it Warner or is it somebody else that's promoting that card on the Wednesday, mate? I don't know who's promoting that one.
Oh, that's MTK, I think, isn't it?
It's MTK. So again, it's slim pickings again next week in that. So if you're really, I don't know if you even be available on YouTube and that, but it might be worth keeping a wee eye on and stuff. But I think it'll probably go distance and that. I'm going to say Fafer probably does it on points.
I think next week, Andy, there's a lot of quantity, not much quality. You'll be picking the odd fight off each card that you fancy.
Yeah, well, because end of the day, as I say, the only thing I'm really kind of holding my interest for next week maybe would be probably Felix Cash against Jason Wellborn. I know it's probably a meh fight in that, but I want to see Felix Cash just to see what he looks like. And John Docherty's fighting. I don't know who he's fighting again, but it's
Anthony Fox. I think Ozzy interviewed him on the pod once.
Did they? Right. John, I think John won a medal at the Commonwealths 2 years ago, I think it was, and I'm sure he won one of the youths in that as well, a year or 4 or 2 years before that. So quite a rangy southpaw, 6 feet, and that's super middleweight as well. So interesting to see how he kind of grows in that he seems to have decent power, but I just want to see him, tested a wee bit and that, but also he's at that point in his career where he's going to have these building fights and that at the minute, gradually go through 6, 8 and maybe step into 10 rounders before they put him up in class a wee bit. What's on the Hingy card, the MTK card?
The MTK card is, let me have a look, John O'Carroll headlining against Maxi Hughes, which doesn't really get me going. Sahir Iqbal and Miradud Thomas have been having a few backwards and forwards. Not really sure about either of them. Sean McComb against Sia Osgood might be okay. Yeah, it'll be on YouTube, so we can watch it for free.
So Carroll against Hughes, the battle of non-punchers, really, eh? She probably got a knockout in that fight, just knowing that as well, probably. But I mean...
What's this about Carroll Hughes? This is news to me. I'm Carroll's manager.
Just ignore him, Andy.
I know. I don't know. Obviously, when we get Rob in the corner, I mean, Eric Donovan's fighting Alpha Barrett and that as well. As I mean, you've probably have seen much of Donovan as such and that. But do you fancy him to kind of go in there and beat Barrett?
I don't know. I said it before. Donovan's a good fighter. He was an excellent amateur, but it strikes me like they're trying to sort of get a run in now, and they're saying, "Look, you're gonna have to sink or swim." Eric knows that himself. You got to fight somebody. Alpha Barrett's a strange. Yeah, he's 35. Alpha Barrett's a strange one. I think it'll be competitive early on, but Zelfa's full-time fighter. Younger, hungrier. He had that strange career where he had about 16, 17 fights where he didn't really fight anybody. Then he beat that Poxton, wasn't it? And then he beat it's Conway, I think. And then he lost to Ronnie Clark. So Zelfa, I'm not really sold on him either. I think Donovan will give him a good fight, but I think the youth and the full-time pro and the guy on the way up will probably be Zelfa Barrett, and he'll probably beat Donovan. But Donovan's talented. He'll give him problems, I think.
Yeah, maybe give him for a few rounds and that, as you say, if he's part-time and stuff, maybe you see Barrett maybe kind of working it down the stretch and that. But I agree with you about Barrett and that. I mean, there's no allegations, it's probably the wrong word in that, but there's no, say, comments about his dad maybe having too much say in his career, protecting him, allowing him onto bigger shows and then kind of keep taking him off. A wee bit like Roy Jones and his dad. He was on the big shows early in his career and then they got pulled off and he was in obscurity for a wee bit and that as well. I wonder if he's kind of having a wee bit too much say in his career and that, but it's again maybe just a wee kind of building thing in that as well for him. But he says I don't know if there's any other cards on next week that I maybe missed. What's happening in America? Anything from there?
Yeah, there is something I was going to bring Gabe in on the Oklahoma card, but you can talk about that if you want, Andy. Obviously, Martinez was going to defend, wasn't he, against McWilliams Arroyo. That got canned. So you got Cecilia Brackus against Jessica McCaskill. You've got that Shakram Giasov fighting Francisco Rojo. And Israel Madrimov is going in against Eric Walker. So, I mean, it's all right.
It's okay, I suppose. As I say, it's two of the Uzbeks and that. So I'm high in Madrimov. Gayazov. I think the guy he's fighting at the Madrimov and that, I think he's well up in age and that, probably classed me as a kind of, shall we say, a kind of club fighter and that. He lost to Patrick Day and I think he lost to Brandon Adams and that as well. So I'm suspecting Madrimov is probably going to blow through him. Breakus against McCaskill and that. I might just keep a wee eye on it for the factors, A, that she's Norwegian, and 2, I want to see what the weight difference is going to look like here, because I think McCaskill spent most of her career either in the division below or the division below that. So, and Breakus is basically a career welterweight, and she does kind of like rehydrate pretty heavily in that as well. So,
McCaskill fought Katie Taylor at lightweight. I don't think McCaskill's had any type of official eliminator before at welterweight. So the fact she's fighting for all 5 welterweight titles is a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, but the other thing as well is I'm sure like Breakus was trying to get what do you call her? Clarissa Shields into a fight in that, but again, I don't know what's happening there.
Too small for Shields, you'd think, wouldn't you?
Well,
Shields
I think
super
so.
middle now.
But she's like that Amanda Serrano, mate, as you know. She's like kind of float between like 8 weight divisions and stuff. That's the reason why they call it a 4-weight world champion. That end of the day, I think I don't know. I mean, I need to go and check the kind of form guide and their weight and that, but I don't know if she could make welter, because at the end of the day, that is undisputed crown, and I'm sure it's. I don't know. Is Taylor undisputed at the minute? Katie Taylor.
Oh, I can't remember, Andy. I know she's
got. So.
Isn't she missing one of the titles? I think
she's maybe missing one of the titles. So, at the end of the day, she's probably still the only remaining, or still the only undisputed female champion there is. So, it's a possibility for her to go make history, I suppose. Mark Castro, that name actually kind of rung out to me as well as. I'm sure he was quite a top amateur back in his days. I think he's an ex-US amateur national champion in that as well. I'm sure he picked up a title or a medal, sorry, in the youths at the Worlds and that as well. So maybe worth keeping a wee eye on that Mark Castro, who's going to be on the undercard. I don't know who he's fighting. Don't think he's got an opponent listed yet, but keep a wee eye on him coming through.
Okie doke. Rob's on the call. Just before we get to Rob, Gabe, do you have any interest in this Tulsa, Oklahoma card? Breakus, McCaskill, Madrimov, Giasov, Nikita, Abababa?
Well, I'll just put it this way. If Texas had a white trash cousin, its name would be Oklahoma. So strictly because they're putting the card on over in Oklahoma, no, I don't. But fights, yeah, sure, I'll probably watch it. I think they have some good fights on there. I'm just fucking around about Oklahoma. It's just like a little bit of fun that Texas always has, because Oklahoma's really a great place, except for their roads are terrible. But yeah, I'll watch it. Fuck yeah. Even though it is in Oklahoma.
I got one thing to say to you, Gabe.
You're a hater!
Stop crying like a little bitch.
Gabe did an impersonation of himself. Shout out to some more of the Patreon boys before we bring in Rob. Shout out to Graham Taylor. Always good for a question or two. Got a couple from Graham this week. Jeff Conway, George Barry, Craig Jevons, Don McNamara, John Kearns, Nathan Shaw, Marvelous Mendo, Joe Ringer, James Addy, Ant, Marco Barrera, Marty G, James Monaghan, Zeconomics, Emmett O'Keefe, and Thomas Byrne. Right, Rob, first of all, how are you? Keeping well? You still breathing?
All good, Steve. On the bursting to get on tonight to talk about all the big fights that happened over the weekend. You know what I mean? Fight camp, PBC. Is it PBC or Showtime? I don't even know what went on this day, to be honest with you.
PBC Fox.
Who was fighting on PBC Fox then?
Jamal James beat Thomas Delorme, and 3-0 Cuban super middleweight David Morrell won a world title against Lennox Allen.
Oh, well, I'll be all over him in the future, I'm sure. No, I didn't see any of that card. Anything else takes your fancy you want to talk about from the Sky card, anything like that?
Well, I'll tell you what, Rob, we can go on to next week if you want. I'm going to ask you about, first of all, Wednesday night, John O'Carroll against Maxie Hughes, and then segue neatly off into Zelfa Barrett against Eric Donovan. Any interest in either of those?
How did that fight go?
Well, they're next week, so we're looking for a prediction off you.
I'm going to say I don't care. Fuck wins that fight, to be honest with you.
Carroll Hughes on points. Come on, over 10 rounds, Rob. Get on it.
No, I wouldn't be lighting the fire for Rob Kelly, any of that now.
But interesting to know the odds are for a fight to go the distance, like it'll be something like 1 to 10 on or something.
I saw the fight of the year contender, Harper Jonas. That was a good scrap. In fairness, all right, I'll tell you what. Give a lot of credit where credit's due. Joe Gallagher, I thought was really good on the night. Really good instructions. I thought Jonas boxed way better than anybody thought she would. Didn't think she had a chance against Harper. Thought she'd get smashed to bits and probably could have nicked it. I tell you who seems like a right good fella though. Steffi Bull seems like a right nice chap. Very kind of plays the background. Doesn't like to get involved too much or be heard that much by the cameras.
Very unassuming gentleman, that guy, isn't he?
Yeah, just an all-around nice guy, he seems like.
Yeah. Billy Robert McCracken stays in the background, a bit the kind of grey man about him, you know what I mean?
You'd hardly know he's there, basically.
Hardly know he's there beating away in the background.
But credit to Gallagher. In fairness to him, I thought he did pretty well in the corner. Maybe it's because you could hear him. And I saw CBD kid Harper again. Was it Anthony Fowler versus Terry Harper? That was a good fight.
That's why she was too knackered in the main event, you see. She took a beating off him.
I saw, I mean, look, in fairness to him, right, in fairness to the guy himself, he's become a little bit more self-aware, so when he gave the interview afterwards, although he did fucking talk so long that then I don't even think the interviewer got a second question, and he just asked him one question and he kept talking, but he commented on how he got hit too easy and He didn't look great. I thought that, I know that guy hasn't been stopped before, but I thought that was an opponent you could be stopping after 2 rounds from the performance that he was putting in for the first 2 rounds. I thought his corner probably didn't do him any favours. I know he's fighting for a reputation and a chance of a repeat, being brought back for Sky. And he was in front of a big audience, but thought they could have saved him. Thought the shots, they weren't necessarily low blows. I don't think. I think they were kind of borderline shots. I don't want to be saying that Anthony Fowler's hitting low and then say Andrew Wall's not hitting low. You know, that way you have to be consistent across the belt line, as everyone knows. So I think he's a bit of a touch of a dirty fighter, though. Fowler, we've seen shots of that before, and I don't think he's altogether the finished article. I don't think at world level at 154, man, this fella's going to get his clock cleaned, and there's a reason that you've seen him fight fellas of this caliber for the last 3 or 4 fights since the Fitzgerald fight. So they're talking Cheeseman now. I'd watch that, I guess. I'd say he could probably beat Cheeseman, but he wouldn't be going much further. Like.
Any interest, Rob, quickly, Zelf, about Eric Donovan? We just think that it might have come a bit too late and Barrett might be that bit fresher, that man on the way up.
Yeah, Barrett's going to be the one. Barrett would be expected to win that, but Donovan's not going to be a walk in the park if he's training that. Like,
I agree.
But I think Barrett should edge it. Like, well, if he's going to do anything and he's where he thinks he is, he should be like Donovan. Yeah, therefore.
Yeah, I think Barrett will win, but I want Eric Donovan to win. Shannon Courtney, we talked about that the other week when we went in against Rachel Ball. Fancy Rachel Ball maybe to pull that one off. Let's see what else we got on the agenda then, shall we? Going towards Bellew of the Week. So, yeah, I had a few questions, didn't I, from the boys? Let's bring up a few questions from the boys then, shall we? From the old subscribers. Just bring it up on the computer. Yeah, Graham Taylor mentioned him earlier. Who should we go to with this first question? Ooh. Hey to Dave Lowback. Ryan Deal has thrown in a question for you. Ryan, the real deal. He says, seeing as we'll be seeing boxing with no crowd for a while, Dave, what results over the years do you think would have been different if there were no crowds? One that came to my mind, what about Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. going in against Greg Horgan in front of, what was it, 90,000 or something? Maybe that could have been different if there'd been no crowd. What do you think, Dave?
100-odd thousand, was it, no?
What was it, really? There you go.
Sure it was, eh?
You think of any? Don't think Dave's picking up. Anybody else? Ryan's saying, what results over the years do you think would have been different if there were no crowd? So we're basically boxing in these sparring conditions.
Ben against McClellan.
Good one.
He got well to that win, by the way, that night.
Maybe sometimes it's a case, Andy, of the referee getting carried away with the crowd as much as the fighters.
Well, the referee was useless. You know, didn't speak English and stuff. Couldn't get control of the fight. Just total bollocks it up. I was going to say Hatton against Zoo.
Yeah.
Taylor against Davis. That was something special. What about Holyfield against Bo, for example? Round 10. You know, do you think Holyfield would have managed to kind of conjure up that comeback in the 10th round without the crowd kind of geeing him on?
That's a good point, yeah.
Jesus Christ, man. Just show it, because it's true story in that. I mean, I've been watching some football and stuff like that, and obviously you think, well, you can see it, I think. I mean, some of these games are getting played at kind of like pre-season pace and stuff. You just think, a wee bit of urgency, especially if you're chasing the game in that. You know, the crowd's going to pick you up a wee bit and push you forward. It's immeasurable sometimes. You know, you've heard fighters talk about it all the time. Frank Warren mentions that trying to get his fighters home advantage and that. So
yeah, exactly.
It's a big thing.
What about Bo Galotto, Andy? He would have just pulled his balls off the canvas and everybody would have just gone home.
Aye, shook hands, left the arena and that. You know, there've been no chaos ringside, there've been no cheers, no Royal Rumbles, there've been no George Foreman standing ringside like a fucking bouncer. Don't do it, son. Don't do it.
The Holyfield fight, like you said, Andy, the fan man getting stuck and there's not enough people in the arena. These people with masks trying to pull him out the ropes.
Aye, the poor fucker wouldn't be getting his brains beaten, you know. Christ's sake. Trying to think what else. Madness and stuff.
We got a good few there, didn't we?
Yeah. Some of the Chinese fights and that, it's no Chinese, Japanese fights. You see some of the, you hear the crowd, and even Thailand and that. See when the home fighters are landing punches and that, they just start cheering every shot. It's like, oh, way. They go, oh. It's fucking brilliant.
Hey to Dave, any from you? Fights that would have been different with no crowd?
Sorry, I lost connection there, but I can definitely give my opinion that Hagen Chavez Sr., I don't think would have gone any different regardless of the crowd. Chavez had an idea of what he wanted to do before the fight based on all of Hawkins' trash talking, and he did just that. I don't think we would have seen a stoppage any earlier or later. He wanted to punish him a little bit, and that's just what he did.
Cheers, Dave. Moving on, Rob, could you imagine no crowd in this spectacular fight next week on the wooden boards over in Milimani City, Tanzania?
Yes.
Hassan, one-time Maquinho, going in for the vacant WBF Intercontinental Super Welterweight title against 9-3 Shibangu Kayembe. Is Shibangu going to get shibanged out, do you think, Rob, by Hassan one time? Oh, Rob, don't tell me you've given up on Hassan after all this time. Come on, man. He's supposed to be fighting Kell Brook. Come on, Rob.
Oh, shit, I was on mute, was I? Fucking... You missed me doing fucking shebang, Ricky Martin for your man. He's fighting shebang, oh, babe. One time was obviously going to fucking wipe floor with shebangs, man. Nobody fucking named after a Ricky Martin song is going to beat one time Joaquinho. And then it's only a matter of time before we make the fucking fight that everybody wants to see, him versus Kell Brook. Who next? I want Kell Brook. Who next?
One time back in action soon on Friday night, no less. Yeah, we went through the card, didn't we? Navid Mansouri against Kieran Conway, Felix Cash against Jason Wellborn. Yeah, we'll just get rid of that, shall we? We're going on to Bellew of the Week soon anyway. What was the other card that we were talking about, Andy? Yeah, Carl Frampton. Supposed to be fighting Varam Vardanian.
Sorry, Steve. Did you say Felix Cash is fighting Jason Wellborn?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a fight that you kind of announce every week that I don't pay attention to. I kind of feel like a fucking Felix Cash fighting Jason Wellborn again. Fucking remind me not
on
to
the
watch that one.
undercard of Frank Buglioni on a Saturday night.
Yeah, Ozzy's going to love this one, but I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah, we've gone through Cash Wellborn. We'll be getting all over that, Andy. So Frampton was supposed to fight Vardanian. His record was shit. This guy's pulled out. They got a sub on standby, apparently. Vardanian had some kind of visa troubles getting... Yeah, Ames is saying that as well. Visa troubles getting into the country. Michael Conlon against Sofian Takust. The only interest there is whether Conlon stops him or not. Paddy Donovan's on the card. Dennis McCann. Troy Williamson. And Archie Sharp defending his title against Jeff Afori. I like the look of Archie Sharp, but I think he will have too much for Afori, who was last seen in the MTK Golden Contract, I think, possibly.
Yeah,
any interest
David
in that, particularly Frampton? Yeah, sorry, Andy.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was just saying, O'Hara Davis knocked out that Jeff Afori. I think it was his last fight in that. Sharp looks good in that, so just maybe step up for time to time in that as well. Do we know who Frampton's fighting yet? No? Is there any names floating about locally?
They said they've got a standby. I don't think they've revealed the name, and then they're talking about having somebody else that they're trying to bring in now, so it might turn out that he doesn't fight at all. He's had a bit of bad luck. Him and Herring have had a bit of bad luck, I think.
Yeah, Herring had that COVID test again, didn't he? And he came out positive and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I suppose Paddy Donovan, I remember seeing him on the card up at Glasgow. Cash Farouk and... what's his name?
Lee McGregor.
Lee McGregor, aye. Look, decent. Southpaw, I think he is as well. I think Andy Lee works for him as well, I'm sure. Yep. So we'll wait and see how it goes. Nah, but it's just this kind of meh card and that. I mean, as you say, if Frampton's going to end up having to get pulled off of this, Conlon's Conlon at this point, and again, we've said it before, the ceiling's limited, and he just doesn't do it for me. Just being honest, it just isn't exciting to watch. But between that Saturday and stuff like that, I don't know what else. Again, the Russian card will probably kind of roll over and that. So I think I maybe just watch it fight by fight basis. I maybe turn it over to see who's fighting, whoever it is. I maybe switch it off. I see Troy Williamson still waiting for an opponent. So who we're realistically going to get at this point is going to be competitive as such. I don't think we're going to get that. And you just don't know if these guys end up fighting done. They're going to be motivated in that. They're just going to go through the motions. They're just going to get a shit show all round and stuff. So I really don't know what to expect, in all honesty.
Show's going by the wayside as we speak. Hey to Dave Lowback. Breaking news here. Dave from Boxing's First, friend of the pod, has messaged me on Twitter, said that the Ring magazine are reporting, Dave, that the Mike Tyson-Roy Jones Jr. fight has been postponed until November. Suppose that'll just be more time for us to get down to California, hey, bro?
I don't consider that delay a bad thing.
Shocked at that, like.
Yeah. This is the kind of fight where you won't believe it till they're kind of in the ring, right? It's sort of like a circus fight. It hasn't had that sort of on again, off again nature that Pacquiao Mayweather had, but it has that feel to it to me. Like, it's just bizarre to see like a gray bearded Mike Tyson in the ring against wrinkly Roy Jones. It's going to be strange. Sort of like that movie, The Grudgment Day, maybe better acted though.
It was called Grudge Match. What movie did you say? Grudgment Day? I don't ever see that one.
It was that one with
Yeah, I think it was called Grudge Match, dude. It wasn't called Grudgment Day. That's the sequel.
On the HBO promos, they called it Grudgment Day. It was terrible. Regardless, this has that feel to it, and hopefully it just never happens. That would be nice.
Dave, hating as usual. I was asking the question during the week about the Frank Warren Eddie Hearn thing, whether it was going to happen or not. Gareth Gonnett on the Facebook page jumped in. He said they blocked Chris Jenkins from fighting at Matchroom Fight Camp, despite Jenkins and his team wanting to accept the offer. Now Frank Warren, supposedly wants to pave the way for some kind of cross-promotional collaboration, quote unquote, for the fans. Paul the other one, says Gareth. A clever PR stunt nonetheless. As to people who don't know any better, it looks like Queensberry are trying to collaborate for the good of boxing, and the blame can fall on Matchroom if the fights don't happen. A clever way of trying to disguise the fact you are asking your rival to pull you out of a hole, which leads me, Rob, perfectly onto the question from Graham Taylor. Would love to hear the panel's take and predictions on this proposed Queensberry versus Matchroom set of fights. Interesting stuff, says Graham. But as Gareth says there, Rob, maybe Frank isn't as genuine. Who would have thought it, as we all thought?
What, a boxing promoter, not genuine. Fucking hell. Who does he think Hearn is then if Frank is not genuine? I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I mean, Eddie, I think, probably made some good points in his little interview. Umar's back in, by the way, isn't he? Umar's back in. You can't cancel. Umar can't cancel Umar AFL. Fucking, he's bulletproof, him, man. Just an apology, and he's back in the fucking domain doing all the big interviews in the fight bubble with his big fancy watch. Just came up with that there myself.
Good job, yeah, that was great, that.
Fucking, I don't know, man. Like, look, I think Warren's onto something, like, isn't he, by doing this, because he knows what the crack is with Hearn. Like, Hearn, for all his talk and all his big ratings and his big fucking flashy lights in his back and Natasha Jonas and Terry Harper fighting. I'm sorry, like, I find that all ridiculous. I know people like the fucking, it's fucking pathetic. Have a big fucking party in the back garden for nobody, with nobody there. You might as well just have a bonfire and have some lads singing around it. Where do I think this is? What this is it genuine or not? It doesn't matter, because Warren knows that Hearn's fighters are thin on the ground outside of AJ. AJ is the only cash cow he's got, baby. Who the fuck else has he got? Who's he got? I know I sound like somebody when I say that, so I'm not even going to go down that road. But who has he got apart from AJ? Once the AJ thing is over, like, I mean, really, he's got some prospects there, but they haven't turned into anything. He's still hanging on to Dillian White on a fight-by-fight deal, but the big stars are there thin on the ground, and maybe Warren has fighters there that he has ambitions for, and he wants to find out how good they are, like. And it probably suits him better. It's a better look for him, I think, if the BT guys come over. But, who are we going to argue? Like, I mean, none of them are stars really outside the top two. Who are we going to argue about? Who's a bigger star between Liam Williams and Boo Boo Andrade? Fucking hell, like, I don't think the two of them, they're not going to be on the fucking Hollywood Walk of Fame, like, either the two of them, like, so, I don't know. I'm all for it if they can. Look, we talked about Don King last week on the pod, and we talked about Bob Arum, and, like, as much as the boys hate each other going back 30, 40 years, they were still able to make fights with each other. So Hearn and Warren should be able to make fights more readily with each other. They're in the same country. They've got fighters in the same weight divisions. They both need it now. With the pandemic, everybody needs this now. They need to come forward and be together. So maybe Frank, I'm not against it. I think it's a good idea. If it's just publicity stunt, it's worked, because it's put Frank in the public eye again after a terrible show last week. And, these domestic DAZN cards and fucking Matchroom Square Garden and all of this is pretty shite. Like, you can dress it up whatever and say Cheeseman is a great fight and fucking Natasha Jonas and Terry Harper are good fights. Right, they are, like, but they're good fights for the level of the fighters that are fighting in them, like, and we want to see the bigger fights. So if that only way for that to happen is through cross promotion, I'm all for it. Like, would it be made or not? I can't see it. Like, I can't see it. He kind of be very reluctant to jump into bed with Frank. I just get that impression from him, but what the fuck do I know? Evening, Ed. How are you, Frank?
Keeping well, Rob. Keeping well. Dave, you going to jump in there with some top analysis?
Oh, well, I'd like to hear Rob's actual analysis of the fight itself. Whether this is a case of Jonas improving since Obanov took her apart, or whether he thinks, Harper's just not all that, and maybe that mysterious member of Canelo's team who said she was his most favorite fighter, maybe they were invented. But I did want to take an issue with something Rob said. He said, who else has Eddie got? He's got pay-per-view star Dillian White
On a fight by fight. Fucking hell, man. That's brilliant, isn't it? I think, by the way, just seeing as you mentioned it, I think I was sad that Jonas didn't get the nod so she could go in search of that Obanov rematch and we get Obanov back for the weigh-in, baby, back on the scales. That's what we need. Fuck this fucking Harper Jonas too. Let's bring Vivian back in here.
Yep, can all get on board with that. The night before Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson was supposed to take place, which was originally September the 12th, on September the 11th, Christian Mijares and Fernando Montiel were supposed to be boxing in an exhibition. That's something that everybody was desperate to see, I'm sure. Anyway, Gabe, got some updates here from Ryan O'Hara on Twitter. He says the 8-round exhibition between Mike Tyson and Roy Jones has been postponed until November the 28th. Sources are telling the Ring magazine. Does this change anything for you, Gabe? Did this change your plans, your entire year? How's this affecting you at the moment, November the 28th, Jones-Tyson? What do you think, Gabe? Too emotional?
I'll tell you what I think. I'm crying like a little bitch over the loss of this fight.
Gabe's over at the ranch somewhere. We'll try and get him back soon, Andy. Let's just change tack, shall we? A question from Holt. He says, I think highly of Joshua Buatsi, but I feel like his matchmaking's been really, really poor relative to his skill and pedigree and the performances he's put in. Seems like they can't get in the Callum Johnson fight or anything meaningful, so he's probably just going to be thrown in at the deep end at some point to get murked by Bivol. Seems a similar fate for Joe Cordina. Am I being harsh, or is this realistic, says Holt?
What was the last part of that? Sorry, mate.
He's basically saying that he thinks that Buatsi is going to... He can't get the Callum Johnson fight, so he's probably going to get fed to Bivol at some point and lose. And a similar fate seems to be met for Joe Cordina. So I think he's saying an overall thing. Guys like Buatsi, guys like Cordina, they don't seem to be dealt with very well. I mean, what are they doing with Buatsi, for example?
Well, I've been asking that question for long enough, to be honest, mate. And the simple answer, the short answer is I don't know. I'm sure Joshua's got something to do with his career. I'm certain, and the thing is, he's like late 20s now. I really had high hopes of him coming out of Rio. I obviously went away and finished. I think he did his degree or finished his masters in some sort of sports science thing or whatever it was. He beat Paraban, who's been over the course. Ryan Ford, Reno Quinlan, and Liam Conroy. That's his last 4 fights, I'm sure. So. At this point, for someone who's knocking on the door, like it's a world title, like WBA and stuff like that, you want to see him in a better opposition. But at this point, I think he might even benefit, actually, dare I say it, between the talks between Hearn and Warren. Maybe we can get him in fighting Yard. Who knows? I know that was one of the fights that Frank had tweeted about. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely down for that one. If Eddie isn't going to be putting him into that type of thing, then you're going to be looking at the likes of... I know Zach Dunn, I know David Brophy beat him, so it's maybe not a good marker at this point. Bozell's been over the course, European level again. There's Leon Boone's coming up, but Badou Jack's maybe the toughest opponent you can maybe get in the WBA rankings outside of Bivol and Pascal, who's probably... I mean, Pascal would be a good measure of stick to see where he's at, because Pascal, even though he's past his best, there was arguments last year that he could have got fight of the year because he's comeback wins and stuff.
It'd be a tough fight for Buatsi, that, Andy, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's they wouldn't stop him, wouldn't they, think? And Pascal's savvy enough to make it difficult for him. So I'm between probably Badou, Jack, Pascal, and Bivol. I like to see Eddie try and throw the dice with maybe like say Jack or Pascal if he can get it made. Bivol at this point would just bore the pants off me. I don't even think Buatsi, even at this point, I know he's like 3-time English champion or whatever it was, and medalled at Rio and that, but Bivol was just the quintessential amateur, isn't he? Just like textbook boxing and that. I just think he'd be happy to kind of box it to a 12-round decision and just blow the absolute pants off us. Or either that, Buatsi at some point is maybe going to retire. I don't know. That's the kind of impression I get. There's never been any big push for him. He's never been front and centre at any Eddie's promotions and stuff. He hasn't been getting the big one, so to speak. So I just don't know where he's at, to be honest.
Maybe it's to do with him. Maybe he doesn't want it.
Maybe.
We always automatically assume that these guys love boxing. Some of them don't.
Maybe it's just a job for some of them in that as well. As another bit of me thinks maybe as well. Maybe he's a bit like Virgil Ortiz, and he's a bit an introvert. He's not really kind of up for the shit talk and all that sort of stuff. But
remember Frankie Gomez, Andy? He had all the talent in the world, didn't want to train, went fat. There was millions waiting for him, you would have thought, and he just didn't want it.
Wasted it. Or Tony Ayala was the same, just couldn't screw the nut.
Yeah. All right. Ryan Deal was throwing in a question for me. We'll probably have to skip this one. He says, why no clamour for Avni Yildirim to get the Canelo fight? Don't encourage them, Ryan. Don't encourage them. We don't want to see Mr. Robot, who was supposed to be fighting David Benavidez, as and when Benavidez beats Alexis Roma. I was going to say Arguello, then Angulo, whatever you call him. Getting confused now. Too much boxing on at the moment. Final list of boys before we move on to Bellew of the Weeks. Richard Lodder, shout out to him. Slip Digby, Ian Piri, Shaun Nomas Vidal, Gordon, Jamie D, Red West, Holly Lewis, Holt, Mike Wrigley, Jamie, Davey Man 100, Gary Lockwood, Saul Brocklehurst, Daniel Wilson, Matthew Reynolds, Matt, and Kevin Crawford. If I've missed you out at any point and you feel like you should be on the list, give me a shout. I do apologise. Our top level subscribers there. You can come on the show if you want. You can come and join me. I've got a chair here. Why not fly over and sit next to me, Andy, and we can do the pod together? What do you think? That could be a new level, new platform, new bonus.
Could also even story time with Steve, make a wee bit extra Patreon subscriptions there as well. Live broadcasts, sitting in your dungeon, or the kind of mess line behind you and that, or the boxes and that.
It's all kicking off in here. Right, let's move on to Bellew of the Weeks then for episode 385. Hater Dave's with us, rapping Rob Kelly, Andy, me, Steve. We seem to have lost Gabe. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Genuinely, I haven't got a fucking clue what you lot have been going on half the time, but seem to be enjoying themselves. That's the main thing, isn't it? Let's up the game here. Bit of Tony Bellew for Bellew of the Week.
Let's be totally and brutally honest here. Sean Corbin makes Valerie Brudov look like Ivan Drago. It's as simple as that. He's beat what's in front of him tonight. He faces me. He's going to visit mental demons again. And let's get something straight. Come to me, mate. You come to me. Next time, ain't no judges going to be needed. I'm going to do worse than Kovalev. I am going to do worse than Kovalev.
Saturday night, mate, you better hold it together. I'm going to smash it near you to pieces, mate. I'm going to hit him. When he gets in the ring and we get 10-ounce gloves on, I'm going to smash his head to bits. I'm going to do it November the 30th against all odds. No matter what people say, the journalists write what you want. All as I'll say is tune back in and then look at me on December the 1st when I am world champion. It's as simple as that.
I'm willing to die in that ring. It's as simple as that. I am willing to die. I'm willing to die, Saturday. Is he? You fucking rat!
Lovely. Love a bit of Tony here. He's going to do worse than Kovalev. That's a good one, isn't it, Andy? Ahead of the Cleverly rematch.
Yeah. Yeah, Christ, man, that was one of the worst, shittiest... That was the time I had Eddie on at the time, and that one of the worst, shittiest pay-per-views ever.
Lads, please, to the listeners who didn't know us before, because this predates me even being on the pod, but if you can go back and find the pay-per-view of Andy hosting the fucking post-fight pod for Cleverly Bellew too, man, it's fucking brilliant. He's fucking fuming.
I was also half jaked.
Oh, you gotta watch it. You gotta go back and check that one out to the listeners. Fucking classic.
That's back when I was an angry dude.
You're more mellow now, Andy.
I know.
Yeah, he's all mellow now. What's up with him?
I know. I can't go mental these days. I end up waking up the kids and stuff, But no, it's just. I remember the time we got money justifying the fight being pay-per-view. It doesn't happen without it being pay-per-view and all that sort of stuff. Scott Quigg, I remember being on it. Was a new fight, a Japanese guy. That was shit. I forget who else was on the card, but I think the entire fight card ended up going the distance, I'm sure. Somebody check that out for me. I'm pretty certain that's right.
I was at another card that night in Belfast, and they streamed it on the big screen.
Oh, it was visual, awful stuff, like the worst ever.
I think that was one of the ones they caught me for as well. I think I might have paid for that for a fight party like that. And Harrison Hay. Fucking hell, man. I got sold, didn't I? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Ricky Gravel was asking about the other one, the Terminator Bellew theme. I can't play that because of copyright. That's been played on about 150 videos, and I keep getting copyright tagged for it. So I've had to go back and trim them all out. So I have to play this one because there's no copyright issues. But the Terminator or the Cannibal Holocaust and all that stuff, it gets flagged straight away. There's like a strike or like a mark or whatever against it. So yeah, can't play them.
Fuck it. That was one of the highlights. The old Bellew of the Week team tune, like doo-doo-doo.
It was a cracker. No, it was a belter. I'd play it if I could. Anyway, Bellew of the Week.
I was mention that long word, that train station, that long fucking word.
I'll have to try and cut the music out the background maybe and just have the words or something. I don't know, but yeah, you can't play the tunes, Andy, unfortunately.
Remember he called us out on the IFL. Well, we asked Coogan to go and ask him a fair play, but I went and asked him, and it just lit the fuse. And next minute, there's a big article in Bleacher Report about Tony Bellew calling us out and stuff, and it was fucking tremendous.
You see you lot, right? You lot. I get more views for the fart. For
the fart. If I'm on the FAS show, I get more views. If I'm on Catchphrase, I get more views. If I'm down opening a supermarket, I get more views.
I talk. What is it? You talk, I do. Your podcast's not worth a carrot.
So you talk about what the fuck it is I do.
That's right.
So the next time you do what I fucking do at a top level, then you can fucking talk about it. Until then, you can fuck off.
Is that a quote from Bellew or the players in the Premier League talking about him?
Exactly. Yeah.
I couldn't put on that scouse. I just can't be doing with it. You fuck.
Oh dear. Good stuff. Yeah. Ricky Gravel enjoying it there, all the boys. Ronnie Hussain, friend of the pod. Shout out to Ronnie. Let's go to Bellew of the Weeks anyway. Episode 385. This is going to be a difficult one to cut now. Okay, Jamie Coleman, first nomination. Nomination for Eddie Epstein, telling everyone he's thinking outside the box with Matchroom Square Garden. He copied Dana White and the UFC's model. Bellew of the Week, says Jamie. David has nominated Matchroom Boxing and Kane Baker. They're up to something before the Akib Fiaz fight. This is a good one for you, Rob. David Almonds nominated Ryan Garcia. I work out to sad music. I don't know why, but it makes me use the pain I've felt and use it to go even harder.
I'm nominated that one at all. Like, I fucking saw his timeline, man. I went through his timeline last week. I think I put it in the chat. Man, someone should just do what they did with Scotty Parker when Fuller went up and put fucking read out all Ryan Garcia's tweets over some really sad music. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. His timeline is a mess, man. Like, reminds me of all the tough times they went through and really spurs me on if I train to sad music. What the fuck? Who talks like that? Like, could you imagine Marvin Hagler saying that? Like, fucking hell. Oh, that's the new generation. I do think he's a good fighter. I said it before, but fucking hell, something. You know what he said? He said yesterday, I'm just looking at it now, I'm feeling 22. Well, I've used for your pal, it gets worse.
Rob, are you trying to say that Marvin Hagler didn't get up in the morning, put on the army boots and the rucksack and get the headphones in and listen to a bit of Chris de Burgh?
Yeah, he's running down the beach going, if you leave me now.
Oh dear. Ryan Garcia on the list. He might be on other lists. Who knows? Let's move on. Rich193 has nominated Jamie Moore, talking about the firework factory explosion in Beirut. No chance that's fireworks. That's nuclear, says Jamie. Getting started. I don't know what it was, Andy, but it didn't look like somewhere you wanted to be anyway.
Look, hi, exactly. Look, I didn't want to take the piss here, but fuck that shit. I mean, I've seen the video of the guy in the harbour just driving along in his speedboat. And the fucking thing goes up. It does look like a nuclear explosion, like. But I'm not saying that I'm the bastion of knowledge and truth on this, by the way. But it's not a fucking nuclear bomb, by fuck me, Jesus Christ! You see the video? There's actually there was like a segment. The actual port has been blown completely out of the fucking place, filled with water. There's a cruise ship that got fucking blown over as well. What the fucking mess!
Well, if anyone would know about ballistics, it would be Jamie Moore. So maybe we should trust his opinion a little bit more.
The Tony Bell you're on about the estates of Liverpool, you know, Talks Teth and all the places.
The bomber up to no tricks. SS Dev 67 has nominated Anthony Fowler, one of the security guards who works for Matchroom, took me to the side today and told me how Supreme CBD has helped his wife so much. Said she hasn't stood up straight, pain-free for years, but now is walking fine. Some people take the piss with the CBD, which is fine, but... And then he got cut off in his prime. So Fowler's getting taken to one side by security guards here, and CBD patting him back.
What did he say? It does wonders for his missus or something, does he?
Yeah, something like that.
Get him to send a box to me, will you? See what the wonders for fucking mine. Fuck it, hell, man, I'm painting all day. Fuck's sake.
Stephen Hatton has nominated Ryan Story. Talking about the Williams Eubank Jr. fight. Steffi Ball's been nominated here for tweeting offences. Porky Rush, shout out to Porky. I haven't seen him in the chat tonight. Steffi Ball admitting he's ran Terry Harper's account since she turned pro. All the conversations between Steffi account and Ray Doyle, Anthony Tomlinson, all fake. Tesco Joe admitting he's run Terry's account basically.
Doing an Eddie. Evening Ed. Steffi Lanham for the best.
Andy Ruiz set for talks with WBA regular champion Manuel Char. This is upsetting news for us, Andy. What's going to happen to Frez now if Andy Ruiz is fighting for the WBA regular title?
I don't know, back to court. I mean, he's undefeated there, I suppose. I just can't believe... Why did they just not pay him off? Just to go away? I mean, he's still in the top 15, I think, WBA. Just pay him off. They
tried, didn't they? They tried to pay him off. Ames did a good video, actually. Check out Take Ames' channel. He interviewed Frez, and he did like an hour or so with him. He was on with us, wasn't he? I think they tried to get rid of him, but maybe Frez didn't accept it. I can't remember the ins and outs.
I mean, somehow down the line, they're going to, if he's refusing to take the money and he's refusing to retire and go away, they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to create a title for him, maybe the gold one. I'm not
Why don't
sure.
they? Why don't they just give him the gold title and be done with it?
Oquendo's going to be like 80 years old, still lobbying for his shot at the belt against like these 25-year-olds.
He might come back and knock somebody out, you know. It happened.
Oh, no.
I can't believe it.
Man, the night that happens, we'll box and be like a big watery fart round in the back of your leg, by the way. That is when you know you've reached rock bottom.
We'll have to quit, Andy, man. That's a pod quitter.
That is, man. The thing is, can you imagine if it's the only fight that weekend, right? And it's the only thing we've got to talk about. And we've got the good. Oh, no, I couldn't do it, man. It's just like, really going to sit and watch that. Man, I end up fucking, my dog will end up having to fucking go to the vet for a broken arse tail because I end up kicking him in the fucking hallway. Get the fucking would you be shite. Oh.
Take Aim says that there's news coming this week from Frez, so we'll be looking forward to that. Philip Walcock has nominated Zabist. White beats Fury in 4 rounds. That's why Fury won't fight him. Don't at me. So we all made sure we atted him straight after that just to annoy him. Steffi Ball being nominated again for tweeting offences. Will 4 fight camps be... Sorry, I had a question from Porky. I forgot to throw that in. Paul Raftery. I would like to nominate Adam Smith, head of boxing at Sky, as the cheap crap fireworks went off in Essex and the camera panned to London in visible utter darkness. Sweet Caroline was painfully played out. It's just good to hear it again. Adam grinned, proclaiming... No, it fucking isn't, Adam. Bean's been on rare form, Andy.
Did anybody see the tweet I retweeted the other day about the guy who was singing? He was singing. He's at the Liverpool pub singing the Sweet Caroline on the guitar, and this drunk guy just walks past the camera, and he appears off the wings and just fucking trips the boy up, almost tombstones him, fucks off.
We've all felt like that at one stage.
Oh, what? I wish that was Eddie Hearn at the time. It was getting fucking tombstone. That was fucking tremendous stuff. But Bean, I can't comment. I didn't, as I say, I was very limited to what I watched on Sky. But Matchroom Square Garden. We'll just reiterate that. What a cunt.
Apparently, Bean came off with this, Andy.
Bean! Would have been, could have been, should have been, never been. Baked bean, creepy bean, Beanie, Rumpelstiltskin. We're on to you.
No hiding for Bean.
No. Run a Bean's to as well. That's one you can run in the back of your leg. I'm talking about, all that shitey fucking stuff.
Paul Raftery has also nominated Joe Gallagher on his boxing social video, taking the security man's temperature. Trading Leather Boxing has also nominated Joe Gallagher and his stable on the Smith brothers, all crying tonight, yet there was no tears when Crawler got handed a win before he retired, or when Ryder wasn't given a fair score. Hashtag tears for Joe. Another nomination from Coney for Joe Gallagher. Can someone put up the official scorecards, please? At WBC Boxing, IBO Boxing, Matchroom, hashtag rematch. Joseph Ajayo, THD, PhD, he's been going off on one this week. They're trying to keep him quiet. I won't keep quiet, says Joseph. He said, I have spoken to Queen Elizabeth on many occasions, basically to leave Yoruba alone. If you don't want a perilous end, Prince Andrew is connected with Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Charles's complicity in Princess Diana's death and Prince Harry's disobedience. Basically, back off, says Joseph. He has a direct line to the palace, so we don't want to mess with him.
This reminds me of CJ from the forum.
Did he know Jimmy Savile? No. Did you know him?
He's one of your own. Jimmy Savile. He's one of your own.
He's one of my own.
Oh dear. Joseph on fine form. A blonde bomber, Ebony Bridges, might have to get off the Ebony Bridges train at this rate. She says, so UK fight fans, I'm getting into football, soccer. I'm going to buy jerseys for Everton, Liverpool, Man City and Man United. Is it fine if I support all four teams? More chance of winning, I'll support each team equally. What do you think? And Bryce at Abu Returned nominated the blonde bomber. I think after she got £500 for her socks. She's trying to milk it now. Stephen Hatton has nominated Peter James Morrison. This is an aggressive and composed as I've ever seen Anthony Fowler. Looks like Larry Holmes with the jab. Hashtag Fight Camp 2. Hashtag Fight Camp. Hashtag Fowler Harper. What do you think about that then, Rob? Anthony Fowler looking like Larry Holmes with the jab. More like Eamon Holmes.
Eamon Holmes. Fucking Jesus, man.
That's a bad one, isn't it?
Oh fucking hell.
Right,
Larry Holmes, man. Anthony Fowler and Larry Holmes in the same sentence. There's something you didn't hear every day. Who said that, by the way?
That was. Let me just bring it back up
What
again.
was the comment?
Peter James Morrison. This is as aggressive and composed as I've seen Anthony Fowler. Looks like Larry Holmes with the jab.
Larry David, baby.
Right. Andy, any from you? I know we were going in on Errol Spence's knockers earlier.
Yeah, Errol Spence, titties, man. I mean, it's going to be seen to be believed. But I wish I could find the tweet, and I can't find the tweet right. But there was a comment made, and it was tremendous. The guy tweeted out with a picture, and that says, "I used to wank the titties like these." Jesus Christ, look at them. He's got
I thought he was setting up a fucking OnlyFans when I saw it. I know what the fuck is going on.
Sweating and all that sort of. He's got his high heel boots on and all that sort of. Something's
He's definitely got fucking CTE from the crash, man, hasn't he? Didn't the coyote bite him on the leg last week? He was out running around and he tweeted a video saying that a wild coyote had bit him on the calf. Well, they'll kind of do that. I don't know what the fuck your problem is. Like, you're either speeding in a Ferrari on the way home from a nightclub full of alcohol at 2 o'clock in the morning, or you're off chasing wild coyotes like the fucking Roadrunner. What's the matter with you, man? Get in the fucking gym, will you? Cop yourself on and get yourself a good sports bra.
Well, I tell you what, but look at the titties, man. He needs to get in the gym pretty sharpish and get that shit sorted out, because that gyno just isn't fucking sitting well.
Isn't that a big sign, so they say? The big nips, like, isn't that a sign of steroid abuse?
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah. Not saying that he has been. I think draw your own conclusions.
I think they call it gyno. Is it gynomastic or something like that? I forget.
That's the condition. But like, he's in fight shape. He looks all right. Like, they're big and all, but they're not like that. Like, I don't know what it's like. I saw the clip and Madonna's song Vogue just started playing in my head.
What do you think, Hater Dave? Give us a nip rating.
Well, what Rob said there
It's
about
a good move for
the coyote and the Roadrunner, that stuck out to me, because I wouldn't be surprised if Errol Spence was secretly a Looney Tunes character. You know, they like fall off cliffs, they survive. How else the hell did he survive that car crash?
I wanna
At the end of his career, a little circle's going to close around. He's going to say, that's all, folks.
It'll just be Porky Roast, it won't be Porky Pig.
in his pal Colin.
Oh, Colin, friggin' hell, no, don't go down that road again, right? Any others, Andy? Any other nominations?
Aye, so Jorge Linares just throwing some shade, mostly on Ryan Garcia, but also Devin Haney. He says, I've always felt it's much better to be quiet and just let your fighting do all the talking for you. So just because we're all locked down doesn't mean we have to feel quarantined and resort to fighting online. I've been training hard. I don't waste my time with tweets and stuff. I understand that fighters like Ryan Garcia and like Devin Haney have to have this online presence. They would rather fight on Twitter and Instagram rather than the ring. Where are they right now, though? Where is Ryan Garcia right now? He's still playing games online while I'm hard work training for a real fight in the ring. And next minute, Jorge gets fucking COVID, so his fight's off now. So hits him fucked. So Baby Garcia gets some shade there. And apparently, I want to throw Ryan Garcia in here as well. I've seen something going through the week there. He'd actually phoned AB for some advice. Fuck knows what advice he's looking for. Maybe love advice. But that career's going right off the rails if he's turning to AB baby for some advice. Just listen to the Reynosos and Canelo and stay the fuck out of. Just stay off Instagram and all that sort of stuff.
How do you fill out the child support form? He could probably help with stuff like that.
Yeah, what Robert Easter thinks about this.
Oh yeah.
So, and I think that's it actually. As I said, I wasn't keeping up to date Bean last night, so I don't know if he came out with anything outrageous, but
just the usual cliched shit, man.
Yeah,
a bit like us every Sunday.
True. But at the end of the day, I mean, fucking hell, it's been tough going these last few weeks now with the real action to talk about, you know. Yeah. We're in a big fight. Lomachenko. Why? Can we throw in Paulie as well for getting the bullet at Showtime? Mm-hmm. That's no for his comments really. I think that's just the straw that broke the camel's back really.
Been brewing, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's all stemmed off his. Do you remember the Cyrus FM interview he gave about Wilder after the Fury rematch? And that he was quite scared, and he was saying like Wilder, felt himself with yes men running about him and stuff, and wouldn't accept any criticisms or constructive criticism, so to speak. And there was talk about Wilder trying to get Paulie removed from one of the broadcasts, I'm sure. I don't know if it...
do you remember that, actually?
So I think, and then the thing is, they've waited 4 months with it. I'm sure that these comments were made 4 months ago. And then they've used them... The second part of it was probably borderline. Like he's kind of fucked himself by saying like there's along the lines like there's no racism or something like that. I can't mind the exact quote in that, but
he said systemic racism is not a real thing, and then he went on a rant. But like, there's a couple of nuances to this. They could have got Paulie out of there 4 to 5 months ago for the way he's been behaving since this McGregor spar.
He's spitting people's faces and stuff like that as well.
Spitting in people's faces, spitting on buses. He's accused McGregor of being gay on numerous IFL videos. Like he's like, this guy wants to suck my cock. He wants to suck my cock. There's no other explanation. It's just the guy wants to suck my cock. Like wild shit, like crazy shit. He's been saying. He could have been sacked for any of that shit. So why they waited till now to get him, I don't know. Maybe they want to get him in the background. Then you got Wilder fucking wanting to get him out because he correctly called the fight. Like, whatever way you break this down, it's the boxing fans who lose out if Malignaggi gets the sack, because on the microphone, currently on active cards calling, he's the best one to break down the fight as it's happening. Without a doubt. Scientifically, strategically, whatever way you want to call it, he calls it honestly all the time, and as well as that, he's always on the money. About what's actually going on in the ring, and that's a kind of a lost art in boxing. He was one of the first really great ones at it in the modern era, and he's a big loss. It's a fucking huge loss, but again, he's his own worst enemy because he cannot shut the fuck up, does not have enough self-awareness to know that if he'd have just reined it in, he wouldn't have got the fucking sack. Like, you cannot say, if you're in corporate America and they're writing the checks, like, that means you can't say what you want. It's just the fucking deal that you've done. So like I said, the boxing fans lose out, but Malignaggi, they were just waiting to get rid of him, man, and he hasn't helped himself at all, in fairness to him. Like,
the real value of the week is that they replaced him with Abner Mares.
Woggle eye.
Yeah, that's terrible, isn't it? That.
Fucking woggle eye.
Yeah, he's terrible. Him. Right, so Peter James Morrison, a good one for Fowler, Holmes, Blonde Bomber throwing one in. Joseph Ajayo, I liked that one too. A few for Joe Gallagher. Any from you, Hater Dave Lurback?
Yeah, I've just got one, and I don't even know their name. The mysterious member of Canelo's team who said that, Terry Harper was the fighter to watch.
That was Headache came out with that shit.
Well, she is, isn't she, after the weekend, Dave? Great fighter.
Yeah, let's see her against Obernoff. See how many times she gets dropped before the towel gets thrown in.
Yeah, let's see her against Obernoff again. Yeah, like that one behind closed doors if you want to.
She should have said, I will do worse than Obernoff. I will do worse than Obernoff.
Pretty hard to do that.
Rob, any from you?
No, but did I tell you? I might have told you this one before. Andy saying about Abner Maris has me rolling, like, because when we were kids, my cousin, his family moved to Australia. And when he came back to Wexford, like, his eye was a bit turned, like, right? I don't know, like, obviously, like, we hadn't seen him since he was a kid, but he had a turned eye, like, he came back, his eye was a bit woggle-eyed, like, Andy said. And one of the lads used to call him Crooked Eye Dundee, because he had an Australian accent. Every time I see him, he's a grown man with a child. Every time I see him, I say, it's fucking Crooked Eye Dundee to me.
I'll give you one. There was a kid we were at school where he had a neck injury. He used to go about with a halo on, right? He had it on for about 9 months and stuff. And we used to call him fucking Brassneck. Right? see, to this day, he still gets called Brassneck. Oh, you Brassneck, it couldn't you? Oh, fucking brilliant.
On this theme, I'll throw one in finally as well. There used to be a guy who used to come in the library, and we always used to catch him watching porn on the laptop, and we found out that his name was Christian, so we coined him Porn Again Christian.
Joe, that's been funny, man.
There you go, boy. It's not really boxing, but we're talking shite. Anyway, I don't know who I'm going to go for, Andy. Persuade me, sell me.
I'm gonna go for Errol Spence for the titties, man. I mean, and if anybody can find the guy who came out with that comment that I used to wank to titties like that, I want to give that a retweet. It was fucking tremendous.
Rob, who are you going for? Excuse me.
It's got to be Spence, man. Just for that picture and the fact that he was off getting like live Instagram and that a coyote was after biting him on the leg. Why is nothing is being made of this? Like, his fucking behaviour is mental. What the fuck is he doing out with wild coyotes where they might be? Go run on the road, Errol. Like, we go off to the desert where the coyotes are. Like, when you're on one with his big mad hair and all. Like, who's he fighting? He's made a fight against fucking Danny Garcia, isn't he? Like, this is 2020, man. Danny Garcia, fucking hell, like. I know he's come through a fucking plate glass window and all that, like, but that's just shocking, like that is, isn't it? But yeah, Errol Spence, man. Errol can get it this week. Big week for Errol. I'm more of an arse man myself, like, to be honest with you. But look, fair play to him.
You haven't seen his arse yet, Rob, but that'll be next week's Instagram. Ryan Garcia is a good one for me. I like Dr. Joseph Ajayo as well, but I think it's got to be Errol Spence. Who are you going for? Hey, to Dave.
I was going to go for Peter James Morrison, the genius who had Anthony Fowler and Larry Holmes sharing a jab. But Errol Spence is a worthy winner.
Well done, Errol. Episode 385. You are the Bellew of the week. Well, let's finish up, boys, and get the hell out of here, shall we? Thank you to everyone who's been on tonight. Don't forget, if you like the show, hit the subscribe button, like button, dislike button, whichever you want. Just let YouTube know, let iTunes know that you love us, you want to be here every Sunday night, and you think that we're great. Rapping Rob Kelly certainly is, as is Hater Dave Lurback, Andy Patterson, Gabe, don't know where he disappeared off to. We love him anyway. Rob Tebbutt came on as well. Thank you to him. We'll catch you all again for episode 386. Same time, same place next week, and bye.